I'm going to jump in a little early, and we'll be here in a second. There is so much going on in UFO world that I just need to do a live stream where I can go through my tweets. There's exciting stuff going on. There's stuff that makes me shake my head. But that's the world of UFOs. For people who do not follow me on Twitter, which there are people who hate Twitter, that's my Twitter. That's my blog. This is my YouTube, obviously. And if you like what I do to support me, which is needed, which I really don't talk about, those are my thingamajigs. One more. What is the other one? Oh, Patreon. Emma is there, so I have 2 minutes. Like I said, I'm moderating, so just try to keep it respectful. There's no question topics that are off limits, but like I said, just ask the questions in a respectful manner. That's all. That's all I ask. I'll try to keep track. I will have to keep track of the chat. The one time I didn't keep track of the chat when I needed to was when Lou was on, and that was a disaster, which I didn't even see, and I haven't even looked to see because I heard it was so bad. People were out of control. People always ask me, what are you drinking? I am drinking iced tea. Milo's sweet tea. I have some pictures too. Hopefully I can get those up because my monitor is, oh, that's not good. Sorry, my monitor is acting up. So if you see me leaning over, that's why. All right, got 1 more minute. Yeah, stuff is going on UFO-wise behind the scenes. There's a pushback going on. Buenas noches, Gabby. Stuff's going on. So just people need to be patient. You know, I met somebody recently, and just another great source to have for information, which I deemed to be valid. A lot of the same information, but as you've heard from Knapp and Jeremy and me and Chris Sharp, apparently Congress has found the legacy programs related to a crash retrieval program and other programs allegedly. So, and witnesses are ready to come forward. I don't know how many. I don't know exactly what those witnesses are, but that's for another day. I'm going to bring Emma on since we're at 7 p.m. and we are ready to go. But one thing first, and it's going to be a delay because, like I said, my monitor is shattered down the middle. All right, I'll bring that Emma in. Emma, are you there?
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How can you hear me?
I can hear you well. So it's Saturday at 2 p.m. where you are?
Yes.
Yes. Thanks for doing this. We had an interaction I think it was a couple of years ago. And then I reached out to you and we talked about doing this, and it's taken a while, and the book came out and now you're here. So thank you for doing this. Yeah,
no, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. So start out. So for people who don't know who you are, who is Emma Woods? It's a pseudonym. Explain why you're using a pseudonym, and then just take me through, you know, your life, your early childhood, where you grew up.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Africa. I was born in Africa, and I've had anomalous experiences all my life, which is how I eventually made it to the UFO field. And I was a research subject of David Jacobs for a while, and then I was unhappy with things that happened there, and I made those known in the UFO field. So that's probably how I'm mostly known about in the UFO field. But I decided to actually write a book about my experiences. So that came out at the beginning of this year. So yeah, I'm just starting to sort of share some of my anomalous experiences in the field, because up till that point, I was pretty much only really known as David Jacobs's subject, and I was talking about those sort of upsetting events there. But I really, the reason I approached the UFO field in the first place was to understand my anomalous experiences better. So I feel like I've sort of come round to the original purpose of why I approached the UFO field in the first place. So it's sort of come full circle. So that's pretty much me. Yeah.
I want to read a quote from your book because it kind of sets the tone for who you are. In your book, you say, unfortunately, there is hoaxing in the paranormal and UFO fields, and researchers need to be careful and develop ways to deal with it. Consequently, anomalous experiences should not be offended if investigators try to verify aspects of the events. At the same time, investigators must understand that in many instances, we cannot prove what happened to us. Can you just expand on that? Because it's really nice to hear you say that, because I am skeptical on a case-by-case basis. I believe something anomalous is going on this planet. What that is, I don't know. So how did you come to that, not feeling, but have that opinion on, because a lot of people would be offended if you questioned their story. And I know you've gotten questioned and you've gotten insulted. I know we could talk about that later. So yeah, just your thought on that.
Yeah, it's something that I realized from being in the UFO field, that it can be quite an emotive place, that people have quite strong opinions and beliefs, and people have experiences, and then there are skeptics, and skeptics can be quite abrasive, and it's often a subject that's quite sensitive to you. So I kind of realized very quickly that there is a lot of sort of, a lot of heightened emotion in the field, and a lot of conflict. And I basically have always felt that, my own experiences are pretty far out. And so are a lot of other people's. And I can't expect people to just take everything that I say as gospel. I mean, they have a brain, they're entitled to use it. And if they want to ask me things, or try and verify things, I can't be offended by that. And I'm not offended by it. And I very much do believe that the more evidence that you can get, the better. And I've tried to do that. I've tried to interview people. People have very kindly spoken on tape, witnesses of some of my experiences, and I've taken photos, and I've set up video cameras. And I think evidence is really important. So that's just sort of how I approach it, is that, I have my experiences, and it doesn't feel nice if someone doesn't believe you, but it is a far out subject. And you can't be offended by it. You've just got to accept that some people just won't believe it, and people do have a right to ask questions. And if you can get evidence, it's a good thing. So that's pretty much just how I deal with that heightened emotion, I think, in the field.
Yeah, and I do see, I see people asking questions. I see people being skeptical. I also see people taking it too far. And I'm not an experiencer per se. I mean, I've had similar, like you talk about premonitions in your book. I've had a couple of them related to death we can talk about later. But the way there are people that come at experiences really hard, and I'm really defensive, as if I was an experiencer. I just don't like it. I have no problem with skepticism, but when people start calling people liars or just saying they're full of it, I just have a major problem with it. Let's go to the beginning, though. Your childhood. Just talk about when you were younger, your first memories of anomalous experiences.
Well, I can remember very far back. I can remember back to just after my first birthday, which is a memory that I can actually date. So I do have very early memory, but I don't have a lot of memory from that time. But my earliest experiences that I can remember were when I was a toddler. And
is that you in the picture? How old were you in that picture? And I know it's you.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear that.
Can you see the picture I have up? The one that
Yes,
you're
I can. Yes.
How old were you?
Probably would have been about 4 there.
Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, so I was having experiences by that age as a 4-year-old. But yeah, back to when I was a toddler, I was walking down a street once with my mother when I was a very young toddler, and she had my younger sister in a pram, and I don't know what happened, but it was like waves of energy came towards me. And I had a kind of a vision, and I could see a man lying on the ground, and he was sort of very badly injured and suffering. And I really felt his suffering. And I don't know what that experience was, but it's something that I've always remembered my whole life. It's sort of a strange visionary experience that I had. And sometimes I've wondered, whether it was a past life, or I don't know what the explanation for it is, but there was that. And another time when I was a toddler, I can remember standing, and there were these black spherical objects floating in front of me, and they were kind of blinking in and out. And yeah, I don't know what that was, but those are the sort of probably the two earliest experiences that I can remember. Yeah.
What were you like? And by the way, I enjoyed the book. It was well done. I know it's your first book you've written, and you are an author. And I said earlier, is that okay? Author / experiencer. And you're not used to being called an author, but an author now. And the book was well done, and people should read it. Yes, it was good. And I know in the early part of the book, you're talking about when you were young in school, how you were really smart. You were really smart to the point where the teacher would put you aside. Can you hear me?
Your audio has just gone out. Sorry, could you just repeat that?
Talking about, how is it now?
It's okay, but it's a little bit verbally.
Okay.
Okay, now I can hear you now. Yes.
Just talking about how smart you were as a kid, and how the teacher would put you on the side and not let you contribute in the competitions because you were so smart.
I felt embarrassed writing that, because I didn't, want to say, that I was super smart or anything, but it was more that I felt like an outsider because she did that. I felt like, I think I've always felt like an outsider, and I know that a lot of experiences do, but I was also sort of trying to see where that might have come from in my, sort of daily life. And I think that might have been one of the things that happened, is that, she sort of made me just not participate in the class. And that was, I think it was probably contributed to me feeling like, I didn't really fit in with other people, and also kind of became quite disengaged from school and things like that. But I do feel, and I do feel that I was taught things, and that I somehow had some kind of education aside from school. And it's a very strange kind of sense. I don't have any like firm memories or anything associated with it, but just a kind of an underlying sense that I was taught, or that I received some kind of education that was not part of my schooling. So that may have been part of it as well.
Read The Secret School by Whitley Strieber? Because when I read you talking about that you might have had some schooling, it sounded similar to what he wrote about.
Yeah, I have read that years ago, yes. And I am aware that other experiences do have similar sorts of, I don't have memories per se, but it's more just a sort of an underlying sense I've had that I've learnt things. Yeah, it's.
Talk about when you read the Bud. I'm sorry to cut you off. Were you done?
Hello?
Can you hear me okay, Emma?
Your picture's frozen. I can't hear any sound.
I wonder if it's the distance. Let me know if you can still hear me.
I can hear sound, but I can't make out what you're saying. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay,
If you can hear me, talk about the Bud Hopkins book you were reading, and
yes.
the hooded figure.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
No, it went silent. I can hear you now.
I was trying to get your take to tell the story on you when you read the Bud Hopkins book where he talks about the
Yes.
woman and the hooded figure.
Yes. Yeah, I had sort of reached a crisis point in my life where I had been trying to suppress my experiences, which is how I was dealing with it. And then I reached a point where I realized I couldn't keep doing that. And then I had read a magazine article a couple of years beforehand, with indicators that you might be being abducted by aliens. And I was really surprised that the list of indicators was similar to my own experiences. So I had been sort of turning that over in my mind for a couple of years. And then I reached a sort of a crisis point where I realized I've got to actually face this. And then I went down to the library and I got out Bud Hopkins's book. And he was talking in there about how hooded figures are part of the UFO phenomenon, which I hadn't known before. And I was really, really amazed by that because I have seen hooded beings. And it was then that I really realized that I really need to look at, the UFO field and look at, the UFO phenomenon if I wanted to understand more about my experiences. So, yeah, that was sort of at my turning point when I made the decision that I was going to approach the UFO field. Yeah.
And yeah, it's I don't know if have you heard Jim Semivan's story about the hooded figure?
Sorry, can you just repeat that?
So Jim Semivan, he's a former CIA spy. He was part of To the Stars.
Gosh, I'm
Can't hear
so
me?
sorry. I can't hear. I can hear sound, but I can't make. It's really burbling.
Let me know when it gets better, and I will repeat. Jim Semivan of To the Stars Academy, which was started by Tom DeLonge and Hal Puthoff. Any clearer at all, Emma? No?
Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me at all?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
I'm
It
just
just
gonna.
seems to
Yeah,
go out in stages. Yeah.
that's weird. Jim Semivan, who was a former CIA spy, he was with TTSA. He had an experience where he had a hooded figure come through his wall. He said, turned out at that moment his friend had died down in Florida. I know people who have had not hooded figures, but a man in black and by the bedside their entire life, can't see the face. So yeah, I think there's a connection, and I was so glad to see mention that. Yeah, for the UFO, in my opinion, and from other people's opinions, for people to understand what's going on with UFOs, they need to study everything. It's not really about UFOs. It's whether it's a hooded figure, whether it's the injuries, whether it's orbs, everything, poltergeist activity, which you've had. It was really nice to see you put. Go ahead.
Sorry, I only made out a few words in that, but I'm getting the gist that that the UFO phenomenon is not just archetypal aliens, that it's much more than that, and includes a lot of paranormal experiences and a lot of it's much more than just the typical sort of narrative. But I'm sorry, I could only make out a few words of what you said.
That's it. No, you got it. What was your family thinking at this time? Did you confide in your family as this was going on as you got older?
Oh gosh, I couldn't make any of that out. I don't know what's going on. I wonder if it's at my end.
What did your family think about this as you were getting older? Did you confide in anybody in your family?
Yes. Once I was starting to look at my experiences and really think about them in terms of the UFO field, I was seeing a therapist at that time, and he suggested that I write a history of my experiences and then also record them as they happened, just as a way of gaining more control over them in my life. And I started doing that, and then as part of that process, I started interviewing members of my family, and then I found out that some of them had also had experiences, including my father, and he had actually had a lifetime of anomalous experiences, and his mother had also had experiences. So that was really quite surprising. And other members of my family had also had a lifetime of experiences. And then I kind of really realized that, you keep it really private. Like, I hadn't talked to my family, and my relatives hadn't talked to me. And it was really only when I just started interviewing people that they started to share, experiences that they had had. And I've also talked to a few close friends as well. And it kind of made me realize how widespread anomalous experiences are, because most of the people I've spoken to have had, at least one or two anomalous experiences, or they know someone who has. So it kind of brought home to me, I think, also just how normal, in a way, these experiences are.
Yeah, you said in your book, you're like, even family members, close family members, people don't even share it with their family. It's so taboo. The stigma is still there, and hopefully that will change one day. Let me play some audio from your website with a couple of family members. These are some short clips. And if folks, you should be, let me know if anybody can't hear this, let me know. Let's see if I can get it back to the beginning, and I can't, of course. Oh, jeez. Here we go. And there's no sound. There we go.
Yeah.
Knowledge.
Let me try that again. Okay.
Unusual experiences and knowing, sort of preemptive knowledge of cases or people. Yeah.
Somebody who had some knowledge of things before it happened, and then another one, and just to show people in her family had some sort of anomalous experiences, because it happens in every family.
It was just really strange. Like the whole day had just gone. It feels very like that is really weird, and it was completely unexplainable, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
And as you do with things like that, you just sort of, in the end, you just push it away. So I don't know what the hell that was. Might as well have been in a coma for 24 hours. It's just weird.
So that's a missing time-like experience, and I don't know how many that is in my family. I mean, I do have family members who have had. I mean, I have a cousin. Can you hear me okay now, Emma?
I can hear you, but it's just very burbly, so I can make out some of what you're saying. Yeah.
As long as you can make out every word. Okay. I have family members I have one cousin who saw with her husband in her living room, allegedly, she said it was a beam of light that came down, two people, and then a being started getting out, reaching out of it. In her mind, she said, I don't want this. I don't want to see this. And it got back in, and then the beam of light just went away. That house my cousin had so many experiences in that house. I never wanted to go in that house when I was younger. So yeah, it runs in family. Of course, most of my family would not talk about it. I mean, I have a sister who has had some really strange experiences, not pleasant. But take me when. So you were working with a therapist. Is that the therapist who introduced you to David Jacobs?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you talk about that? How that happened, and then how you started working with him, and what
Sorry,
that consisted of?
I can't hear. Can you just repeat that? I couldn't hear any of that.
How your therapist introduced you to David Jacobs, and how that work began, and how it played out.
I'm sorry, I can't make that out. Maybe could you just
about David Jacobs and how you were able to, through your therapist, work with him?
I can't. I'm really sorry. I can't hear. I can't make any of that out.
All right, we might have to do this another time. I could type questions, but that would take a long time. Maybe we'll reschedule it.
I'll just look at the settings for the audio. Just wonder if
I don't think there's anything. I hear you fine, so it might be something to do with the connection.
Okay, I'll try doing the mic. No, that's probably just going to affect it on your
Yeah,
end. Is that any better?
I mean, you're fine.
Yeah,
I can
no.
hear you.
No.
You want
Hello?
to reschedule, Emma?
It's up to you. Yeah, it's up to you. I don't mind. I mean, I can persevere, but if it's not good enough, I'm happy to reschedule.
We
It's
can
completely up
reschedule.
to you. Reschedule, yeah.
Just because you can't hear me, so we'll figure out a day, another weekend.
I'll tell you what, I'll go on to, is it possible to do it through Skype? Or I've had no problem with Skype in the past.
If you do Skype, I might be able to put a mic up to, I'm not sure if that'll work. I can't do this through Skype onto YouTube. I'm not set up to do that.
Right. Okay.
Am I still breaking up? Yeah. Let's just reschedule it. I'll figure out something for tonight.
Okay. All right.
All right.
I'll switch over to Twitter.
Okay. Sorry about that. That's the first time I've had something like that. But you know what? I'm going to do what I planned on doing with Twitter and go through my tweets. Just give me 1 second. I will be back. Let me just say goodbye to Emma. And there's so much stuff going on. I have videos that I've tweeted out. I just have to go back to the right time. Yeah, Jonathan, you missed all the excitement. I'll be back. I will be back. Just give me 1 second. All right. And feel free to ask any questions. But there's been so much going on. Let me try to keep track of Emma's message. I don't really know what else we can do. That would be painful to continue that for 2 hours. I need to go back and there's been some drama the last couple of days on Twitter. What else is new? But I was kind of in the middle. But I want to go through and add my tweets. Man, there's so many tweets to go through. I have to go back. I should take. You guys can ask questions as I'm doing it. It's going to take me a little bit because between one of the cases, we have Ben Hansen, who had a retired F-18 pilot, who said he saw these objects circling around each other near his plane. The video came out. It turned out Mick West and some other skeptics did a good job showing that whatever was on the video was the iPhone autofocus LiDAR lights. So, but the pilot was like, well, those lights were there before I started recording. So if that's true, then he did see something, but we need to hear from the other witnesses. So who the hell knows what he saw? But he did call air traffic. I don't think the guy was faking or lying or anything like that. So yeah, interesting case. But if there are no other witnesses, kind of not useless, but it's not going to go anywhere. And I will take my time to go through my tweets, but I need to go back a few days, like 3 or 4 days. I've been wanting to go through some of them because there's a lot of video, a lot of stuff going on. I need to go back to the Gary Nolan interview, which I know most of the folks on Twitter have seen it, but there are people on YouTube who have not seen it. Please feel free to ask questions as I'm strolling here. I will talk forever, but questions would help right now, so you're not bored. I'm just reading Emma's message. She's want to know if I could do it on Skype. I don't have it set up. So yeah, ask some questions while I'm going through this. I need to find. Nobody has any questions about anything. I mean, the last week or so has been great for me, and now I can't find. Oh, here it is. Sorry, I have not been this excited in a while. I wonder why my tweets. I haven't seen any new tweets come in. People are bored, I guess. 13 viewers. Oh well. Between Gary Nolan's interview, which I'm transcribing and making it into a massive transcription because I'm adding as much as I can between related video, related tweets, related links. But for me to go through my tweets, I need to go back to the Gary Nolan interview he did with Tucker Carlson and the Gary Nolan interview he did with Ross Coulthart, which was really, actually, I could start there because that was really, when it comes to Wilson Davis, I mean, besides Eric Davis saying he wrote the notes, I think that and an Eric Davis comment on Facebook, which basically says, if you're reading between the lines, that he wrote the notes. And there's been some drama on Spaced Out Radio, people accusing Lou of nefarious behavior. And I'm paraphrasing, but give me a second. Let me deal with Emma, and I will be right back. I'm trying to just rewind my tweets for like August 27th. So I'm getting closer. I'm trying to go back 5 days. There's plenty of stuff for me to, I need to do this more often because there's plenty of stuff for me to just go through and talk about nonstop until I run out of air, which I'm really good at doing. I can ramble with the best of them. I just need to find where to start, which I think was the Eric Davis, Gary Nolan interview with Tucker, which I need to find. Kit Green, there's a part in there where Kit Green's talking about how the government, it's not an official statement, but Kit Green's saying if there's a story of aliens being here, the government might come up with a story that's a lot more scarier than the truth. So when people actually do hear the truth, they say, oh, that story about the reptilians eating babies, that was pretty scary. The real story is not so scary. I can accept. So yeah, that's one of the Kit Green interviews he did in the book Mirage Man. If you've seen the video, the documentary, the book is better. The book is more thorough. The documentary is fine, but the book is more thorough. And I'm not sure when Gary Nolan did his interview on Tucker, and I'll check the comments in a second. I got to get back to Emma. Let's see if I can do three things at once. Damn it, where the hell? There's, I found the Eric Davis quote. Lockheed. I'm still going back. I'm going to be here a while, so just be patient. There's Gary Nolan. All right, I'm kind of close to where I want to be. This is, and like I said, I should do this more often because there's so much good stuff, at least to me, interesting stuff going on that I need to share. But let me get to Emma. I will be back in a second. Again. Yeah, I don't know what that is, but I don't know. Maybe it's my computer. Could be mine if you guys are having a problem. But I can always reload at least my end later on, since I'm recording. But I'll be back in a second. Yeah, it must be me. I don't know because I don't have a lot of windows open, so I'm just gonna reschedule with her. I'm gonna go through my tweets. I'll try to keep track of. It doesn't really nothing I could do if it's new. I guess I need a new computer. That could be the problem. So I'm gonna switch over to. Oh, look, I have 5 people watching Friday night. I haven't gone out on Friday night in years. I don't really go out much. Let's see. And by the way, I'll today. Yeah, the ETs are suppressing Emma and me. I don't think Jessica's here anymore, but I wanted to say this. There was a tweet by this guy, Sick Tanic. And I think they've battled a little bit. I used to battle with him, but he called her a Nazi because her screen name is Go Kick Rocks 88. Because 88 is supposedly representative of Hitler, which I've never heard of. And so he accused her of, oh, are you a Nazi? So my argument to everybody in the field is like, whether or not you agree with her or you agree with anybody, it's never okay to be calling somebody a Nazi and some other choice words. I've defended John Greenwald, who I don't agree with most of the time. I've defended Stephen Greenstreet. It's kind of disappointing to see the community not rally around somebody because they don't like her or whatever. They don't like her takes. It's really, you know, so also you're going to let somebody call her a Nazi because there's 88 in her screen name. She was born in 1988, you idiot. My God. And now there's another person jumped in and said, well, we just want to make sure her clarifies. She can clarify right now if she wants to. I hope she does not clarify. And as I said, I bought a piano the other day with 88 keys. Is the piano a Nazi? I don't know. Let's get a quote from the piano. Let me go to my my tweets, and it's probably not going to be everything that I want it to be, but I'll give it a shot. Let's see. Share screen. There we go. All right. Get rid of that. All right. So, and I will keep my eye on comments. Feel free to ask anything. I think my computer, so I can see it. So this may be not great. Let's see. And give me, if you guys haven't seen the interview with Tucker Carlson, I think Project Unity somehow was able to get it on his page and not get any copyright issues. So check it out. So you can see my tweets. Basically, I was talking about disclosure and saying I don't think the world can handle full disclosure if it's as complicated as I think it is. That doesn't mean I don't want disclosure. I want disclosure tomorrow. I definitely do. You're going to have to ask Gary that. So what does Gary think about William Bankston? By the way, I am trying to secure Mr. Bankston. I'll have to have a new computer by then if this keeps up. By I think November 1st is the date we're looking for. So I don't know what Gary thinks. I've spoken to other people behind the scenes who are very positive about his work, but they don't want to say it publicly because it's still controversial. I mean, healing is one of the last things I got interested in because I didn't think there was any evidence, but I was wrong. Yeah, you guys keep questions like this coming. Any comments on Lou Angeles and his meltdown? I did not see the last show, but I think he said everything is black tech. There are other people out there who believe that. As I've said before, I am open to all possibilities. I don't think that's the case, but we'll see. I mean, I don't see that as being the answer. I don't want to speak for people, but one of the theories is these contractors have this technology, and then people like Lou are trying to get it out by forcing their hand, and this is the way they're doing it, so not, what you're seeing really isn't non-human. It's something to do with our tech, and they're just trying to get access to those other programs, which is now happening. Maybe it's some evil plan, which is not really evil. The ends justify the means. I don't think that's what's going on, but if their goal is to get access to these private contractors or their technology, I hope they get it. I mean, no matter what no matter where this technology is from, I believe it's advanced, and maybe they've made breakthroughs that we don't know about. You know, you talk to Nick Cook, who wrote for Jane's Defense Weekly, and he's like, my gut feeling is somebody has cracked gravity. And it's my gut feeling too, but my gut feeling is not based on the research he has done. You know, I talked to Will Miller, who's part of the Wilson Davis notes, and he thinks we've cracked gravity. But I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see what kind of evidence they have that shows us cracking 90-degree turns from the historical data, which that would be, you know, going back to the 40s. I would love to see what they have on film, you know. As far as Lou being disrespectful, I haven't seen the show. I don't really want to get down in the weeds with that stuff. I'm trying to focus and not comment too much on that. I was in a spaces with him last night, or was it today? It was today. I can't keep track of time, for like 2 minutes. And by the way, let me know if there's any hiccup in my video now, but I was in for 2 minutes just saying, we were talking about Richard Butt, the guy who has access. And I believe he said on a scale of 1 to 10, he was in a Danny Silva space, saying his access was like a 9. Okay. Well, I've had disagreements with Richard, but I don't have any doubts he is who he says he is. It's just, all right, fine. But Lou Angeles had a major problem with him. He accused him of blackmailing him, which I don't think happened. I know what he's talking about. I need to see it again. Like I said, let me know as far as if you can't hear me, if I go out at all. And I will go through some of these tweets, and you should be able to hear me. You should be able to hear the video. So that's the spear. So in Ross Coulthart's documentary, they had these spears, which I wasn't a big fan of. But the spear scrapings are being tested by Dr. Gary Nolan at Stanford. So we'll see. Let's see. You know, people talk about this is going to leak. Rubio, when he was interviewed on TMZ when I think it was at the airport. And he's like, listen, everything leaks in Washington. Whatever came out of the classified briefing, it's going to leak. Well, it really hasn't. I mean, we haven't really seen anything specifically what they got to see. Supposedly it's amazing stuff. And then you hear other people saying, oh, I wasn't impressed. I want to hear one senator just explain to us what they saw. That's all. When Ross interviewed Tim Burchett, congressman from, is it Tennessee? I could be wrong about where Burchett is from. But in the documentary, he says that Burchett showed him pictures off camera of these Polaroids of craft really close to the plane, but he couldn't show us. So a reporter from Australia got to see it, but we did not. So that is really annoying. Danny Sheehan also said he saw pictures right off the wing of an F-18 of a Tic Tac. Show us. I mean, I want to see more than pictures, but if there's pictures with provenance and the pilots, you can say, yeah, I took this picture or that's from my plane. That's impressive. I still want to see video though. Yeah, people are saying once the media gets a hold of this, look out. But where's the media been with the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, you know, talking about related health effects? They've been non-existent except for Tucker Carlson. So yeah. I'll just go through some of your comments. Nolan wasn't excited about the ball scrapings, but he'll spear scrapings, but he'll test them. Why not? Why not? What's it going to hurt? Who cares? Any idea who the new witnesses will be? What they know? I know nothing. I just know, and I don't want to say too much because I can't, but as I'm not the only one saying this, there's pushback. And then Jeremy Corbell mentioned the other day when I saw him and George Knapp speak in Las Vegas, he said that there was suppression going on. So I don't have details of that. There are people, various groups for various reasons who do not want this out. I have no doubt about it. Religious folks, contractors who have this stuff allegedly, people who don't want to upset the status quo. They're afraid how this will end up. I mean, I spoke to somebody who's in the Wilson Davis documents. I called him. I got his number, and I blind called him, cold called him, and he was connected to the Special Access Program Oversight Committee. This guy was tapped in. He most likely knew that Eric Davis or Admiral Wilson did get shut out of the crash retrieval program, the alleged crash retrieval program that he spoke about to Eric Davis. But this person was like, why would you want disclosure? Why? So you can upset religion and, just, you're going to just really cause havoc in this world. And you could see it in my blog. It's part 3 of Wilson Davis. So there are people like that. And it's not a bad guy, but I think there are quote unquote bad actors who just are selfish and don't want this out. Then you have the people who don't think we deserve it, that Kit Green talks about. Other people, whether it's financial interests, control of the technology, I don't know. So I don't know who's coming forward. Maybe being extremely cautious since they scrutinize every word he says. I don't know what's about. Might be Nolan. Nolan gets scrutinized. It's ridiculous. It's like people should be happy that somebody of his stature at Stanford is open-minded enough to talk about this, talk about his experiences, about the little men. I mean, he talked about that to I think it was to Ross he opened up, and he's getting, people slam him for it. It's ridiculous. I went at somebody today who made fun of people who see wolves or dino beavers. I'm like, you're making fun of experiencers. And this person's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, yeah, you are. Those people have seen something. They've experienced something that is anomalous and really hard for most people to accept. And they're sharing their story, and you're saying, oh, it's BS. They're full of it. I'm like, stop with that attitude. Just stop. All you have to say is, listen, these people are seeing things that I find really hard to believe. I'm skeptical, but maybe reality isn't exactly what we thought it was. And I'm open-minded. Let's see how this plays out. That's all you have to say. You don't have to say people are full of it. And, I don't know why people continuously do that. Do you get off on mocking people who share their experiences? It's ridiculous. The way Dr. Pasolka speaks of the phenomenon sounds like at least part of it is very scary and related to religion. It may be scary. It may be the basis for a lot of religions. We don't know. You hear dark aspects. I've heard it from other people. But it's speculation right now, unless somebody does know. And as far as I know, nobody shared that officially. I've heard stuff behind the scenes that is interesting to me, but there's no proof. I don't think it would be interesting to the world. So, meaning they would have major problems with it. Well, yeah, so the media really hasn't reacted to the NDAA like I would hoped. It's kind of depressing. I don't know why that's the case. So, let's see. This is a sphere again. I'm not really interested in the sphere. I wish they would not have covered that, but who knows? Let's see what the testing is. So there was a high strangeness cattle mutilation, which we'll also get to that later if I can get through all of this. I want to see if the audio actually works. And I transcribed part of the Ross Coulthard documentary on the sphere, which I don't really want to get into. It's 18. This one guy, Patrick Jackson, I think his name is. He has a theory that these spheres are here to protect us from the aliens. The theory. He talks like it's fact. Sorry for the ums. I know her. She's working on another book with somebody who deals with language and maybe communication. I don't know what she's sitting on. Let's see. I'm sorry. I may have gone back too far, but there's some good stuff. And Barry Taff is somebody who's written about poltergeist activity, hauntings, and how a lot of it may be originating from a person or multiple people in the home. And there's also a connection with a lot of the people who have these experiences have epilepsy. So maybe that's connected. No way to prove that, but he's found an awful lot of people who have those experiences have epilepsy. A great book, The PK Man, Ted Owens apparently could predict weather and predict UFO sightings. Maybe he was causing all of that, though. Everything could be coming from us. That's a theory. You talk about Carl Jung, the collective unconscious. I don't think that explains everything. It could be explaining some of it. Maybe. So Yeah, somebody starting to finally come around. Rather be squidding, who's was part of the Lou UCR crew. He said, "Exciting to hear whistleblowers are lining up. I'm starting to believe." And Corbell has said that. Nolan has said that. Knapp has touched on it. Chris Mellon said it today in an article. I don't think they're all lying. It's just, what are these people going to say, and are we going to hear about it? That's what I said. Wilson Davis is legit, by Davis, but are the notes accurately describing a crash retrieval program that attempted to reverse engineer an intact craft? We need to hear from the folks who worked in the program or ran the program, and those may be the whistleblowers that you guys are asking about. I don't know. I hope so. Whether or not we get, I said whether we get to hear from those folks, I'm skeptical but hopeful. I mean, if it's behind closed doors, that's not going to help us right now. It may help us down the line. It's going to go through Arrow, the new office, and Congress first. Whoever's able to see that information doesn't mean they're going to share it with us. But it's a step forward. Michael Vai is very skeptical that it's going to get to us because of national security. These are craft with propulsion. Allegedly, if we have something non-human with an amazing propulsion system, you don't want the Russians and Chinese to find out. God forbid, they probably have their own stuff, or if they do, God forbid we tell them, because they're going to somehow break in. I mean, you would think they have their own remote viewers who have worked on that. And if Eric Davis is right and being truthful, we have not had any breakthroughs. It doesn't mean we haven't had any breakthroughs with other technology. We could have other craft. Maybe we have triangles, like I've said. We know who's in the Tic Tac. We know who's in the saucers. We know who's in the triangles. We have no idea who's in the Tic Tacs. And I had that quote unquote confirmed from somebody I trust. Let me see. So Merrick writes great articles for the Hill. Basically, Congress now, in their language for the NDAA, they don't want the UFO office to focus on anything man-made. So what else is there? Something that's non-man-made. So that's a pretty big deal. If they get a case that they think is man-made, don't follow on it. Don't listen. I think the Borg are in the rectangles, right? The rectangular Borg from the 60s, if I recall. So Congress wants them to focus on stuff that is not man-made. Basically, it just says if you find something that's a drone, you identify it, just do away with it. It's not going to be part of your evaluations, as Susan Goff said about the UAP task force when the Corbell video was presented. And she said, oh yeah, shot by the Navy and used by the UAP task force in their evaluations. Stand for better. Why is the mainstream media not covering this? Why is it only Tucker Carlson? It's unbelievable. I mean, somebody is missing out on a Pulitzer. If everything that's going on is, we think is going on, and there's a non-human presence here, it's like, of course, you get conspiratorial, maybe whatever this is controlling everybody in the media not to cover it. Then how do you explain Tucker Carlson? I mean, what happened to CNN? I know their program went off the air, CNN Plus, their channel. We haven't heard anything about that. What do you think about the recent talk about the Bledsoe prophecy? Oh, we can talk about that. Anytime since I've been in this since 1996, anytime you see a prediction related to a year, anytime there's a date, nothing happens. Ever. And if Chris Bledsoe is really in contact with the phenomenon, which I think he has stuff going on there, who knows? As Jim Semivan has said, and other people have said, Carla Turner has said, it lies to people. Why would anybody believe anything? I mean, I know it's based on an alignment related to the, I think it's the vernal equinox in March, where the sun rises up in Egypt. It would be over this, I think it would rise behind the Sphinx. The last time we had an alignment related, I think the Egyptian alignment was Orion lining up in a specific place behind the Sphinx, and it was 10,500 BC. And that cycle is 25,920 years, basically precession, the way the Earth is tilted 23.5 degrees. And I'm not a mathematician to explain it right, but if you look up at the sky, you look at a star, it will go around in a circle. It'll take 72 years for 1 degree of movement. For the entire circle to go around is 25,920 years. That's precession. The Great Year. There's a documentary with James Earl Jones narrating it. You can watch it on YouTube. Some people believe rise and fall of civilizations and consciousness go along during that cycle. Other people talk about cyclical disasters. It's embedded. If you look, the 72, which is 1 degree of that's embedded in so many religious texts. You know, you have the 108 beads of the rosary, which is 72 plus 72. You have 2 pieces of jade on the jaguar underneath the pyramid of Chichen Itza. You have 72 names of God in the Kabbalah, I believe. There's 72 virgins when you go to heaven. It's just that astrotheology, astrology, it's just embedded in so many different texts. And you have this whole cycle thing is just everywhere. Whether or not that's related to UFOs, I don't know. Are they here to see the next cyclical disaster? Maybe. We all know UFO Joe will be taken from us, led to an underground cage for re-education. Yeah, if you don't hear from me, you know what happened. Because I'm too inquisitive and a researcher. Well, somebody called me a gossiper last week. I'm not a researcher. I don't call myself a researcher. I do what I do. Big deal. I like it. There's so much good stuff going on that I can just talk nonstop about for the past. So key people said UFO Jesus. UFO hearings would come. They did. Key people said immunity language would be drafted. It was. Key people are saying we'll be getting more hearings. I bet we will. I don't know when they're coming. I have not heard anything. I did ask somebody recently. Somebody I met that's new, a really, really good source of information. I wish I had more contact with that person. So whistleblowers are coming. All right. But they're being cautious about whether or not we're going to see them. Let's see. I wish I had. This is Project Unity. Let me see what's said here.
The Admiral Wilson document.
In
the context of that conversation, I then went for it and decided to ask Professor Gary Nolan.
So he's asking Gary Nolan in his interview he did a show, Need to Know, and they were on the road in LA, in California with Bryce Zabel, and they interviewed Nolan at Stanford.
And
part of the interview, he asked Nolan about, and I have this on here. He asked Nolan about Wilson Davis.
Do you know anything about the Admiral Wilson document? And he said, yes.
Let me know if you can't hear it.
Does he think it's genuine? And he said, yes. He said, I know Eric Davis. And Eric is of a kind of character it's impossible for him to lie. And then I explained the significance of that document.
Eric Davis can lie. Eric Davis doesn't lie, though, unless he has to. I mean, he's just not that kind of guy. If you interacted with him, you would know. People say, oh, he can't lie. That's ridiculous. He can lie. It's just not his personality, okay? He just blurts things out. Obviously, not classified stuff. Although he's talked about the crash retrieval program. He's also talked about landed technology after Lou was on Carlson. So let me just get to this quick. Tell me if you can't hear that. A couple of people have criticized Bigelow for hoarding data. Seems odd he won't release. I agree, and I'm criticizing him too, and so are other people, some behind the scenes, some in public. Release it. It's ridiculous. What is going on that we don't know about? Somebody said he didn't get paid, so that's why he's doing it. I don't think that's the case. I think the money that was talked about, that I think Travis Taylor said $12 million. I think that was for the third year, I believe, and it was taken. Lou spoke about it, how it was taken by another office because the wording wasn't specific enough for OSAP, and then it got taken. Science Bob claimed on one of Jess's spaces that someone asked him about the Wilson memo in the past. He was very cryptic about it. Well, 2004 or 2005, which I have a blog about that on my website, ufojoe.net. And Bob said that he had a friend call him up and said, hey, take a look at this. And it was a letter or an email from Wilson trying to find out more about the program he was shut out of in 97. So this was 2004, 2005, which if that's true, Wilson was still annoyed that he was shut out as the director of intelligence, the V2J2 vice director of intelligence. So yeah. And Bob doesn't talk about it anymore. And he said he had a date planner. All right, good. A date planner. Thanks, Green Hiker. There was a date planner where he said he wrote down a note about this email from Wilson that he saw. And he told the guy, just stay as far away from that as possible. You don't want to get involved in that. And he supposedly threw out his notebook, which is, to me, why would you do that? That's contemporaneous evidence that could be used in a court of law, which I don't think it would ever come to Bob, but just saying it would prove that he made the note, unless you want to say that he wrote it later. So Bob saw that, but Bob wouldn't be a big witness. At this point, Eric Davis may be called, but you or Wilson, I mean, I want to hear Wilson and Davis, but you want the people in the program that worked on the craft. That's who you want. Wilson would be fine and great for me, especially if he talks about how he felt he should have gotten access. And that's really not acceptable that they've taken over and left Congress and people like Joint Chiefs out of something that would be intelligence if we had a non-human craft. I think that falls under the purview of where Admiral Wilson was at the time. He wasn't the director of the DAA at the time. It was before he was the director. He was, like I said, in charge of intelligence. A really important position.
Which is that Tom Wilson, the Admiral, allegedly had a conversation with Eric Davis where he imparted his discovery that was allegedly a secret UFO reverse engineering program going on inside either the US government or private corporate aerospace, where they were hiding, allegedly, a recovered spacecraft. It was being hidden supposedly inside private aerospace, according to the memo, in a private aerospace corporation. And I put it to Gary. I said, look, Gary, the journo in me, the journalist in me, thinks it's highly implausible for the simple fact that in America, everything leaks. You know, it's impossible to keep a secret like that.
I've heard that from other people too, privately. I'm like, it's the biggest secret in the history of the planet. I think it can be kept. And then Gary said, well, it wasn't kept. I think this Ross where he goes, it was leaked. Although it wasn't really leaked. It was just not, it was not secured as well as it should have been, with Edgar Mitchell having it in his belongings, and then he dies. And what echoes? What echoes are you talking about? There shouldn't be any echo with the video. Are you guys hearing echoes at all? Let me know, because I don't have any other windows open. So just let me know. I'm going to keep playing. I have lots of videos that I put up on YouTube for this, for, echoes from Ross. Okay.
And Gary went, well, this is an example of it leaking.
Yeah, the Edgar Mitchell dying is an example of it leaking, which really is not. I wouldn't say that's a leak, but we got it. So,
and he made the point that yes, the memo had eventually come to public awareness. And I said, okay, but how sure are you of the provenance of the memo and what the implications are of what's inside it? And he basically told me that he's known about the memo for many, many years before it even became public. And he's aware of the conversations. And without naming names, he satisfied himself that he believes that it's a genuine document and that it records an accurate account of events. And he said to me, crucially, well before this came to light, I already knew of the document because Eric was part of a group that I was associated with around this. And I responded to him and I say, the implications of that are mind-blowing, Gary. And he goes, yeah. In this conversation, you've told me that you believe on evidence that...
Basically, we know the rest, but yeah, so he was in a group with Eric and he knew about the document years ago. What does that mean? Obviously, he's implying that Eric told him. It's really not that hard. And when this came out, and then we actually have the interview with, I have the Nolan saying this. It's so obvious. Gary Nolan's close with Eric Davis. Brandon Fugel has said this. He knows the document is legit because he runs in those circles with those folks, those people. I found out last September 11th, 2021, that it was legitimate. People just, it's not that hard to figure out. I mean, yeah, I want to see Eric Davis go public, which he did say something on Facebook the other day. Somebody was saying, by the way, Peter Lavenda said he thinks the memo is legit, but the details inside of it are a hoax. And Davis, for the first time, jumped in and said, how would anybody who's not in the know that it was fake? In other words, I mean, come on. So, AJEF, Good to see you. I'm not as I could be because we had to reschedule Emma because there might have been problems with my computer, but she couldn't hear me. So I need to figure out if I have credit to get another laptop. The lies are lies. I don't really know what that means. I think Brian Bender said, we're all buried in lies. Joe, you tweeted something recently about if you only knew why Davis was upset. Oh, yeah. I do know. I can't say because it's private, but let me see. How can I? Basically, Eric is on our side. He was pissed off about something that we're all pissed off about too. That's basically all I'm going to say. And it's like, I know Bob McGuire, I like Bob, but he's like, it was right after he heard John Alexander speak and deny crash retrievals, which is nothing new. They've battled on that for a long time. I think John Alexander knows there are crash retrievals, but his patriotic duty is to say no, just like probably knew OSAP was going on. Maybe not ATIP, but probably. I'm not going to hold that against John Alexander. So Bob McGuire was like, Eric Davis was getting upset, and then John Alexander pointed to him during his lecture and said, if you want to know about Wilson Davis, ask Eric. He wrote them, and trust me, there were people around. No way would Eric Davis discuss Wilson Davis. It wasn't about that. It wasn't about crash retrievals. It was about stuff. It's not like mind-blowing stuff that we would say, yeah, I agree, Eric. What is that? That's bullshit. So that's all I want to say. So basically the same stuff that we have a problem with, Eric was saying, and then some other stuff's just too private. It's not really relevant. It seems obvious that Davis would get upset at he wasn't getting upset at John Alexander. He was not. It was about something else they were discussing, and he was saying, can you guys believe this? And John was there, and Gary Nolan was there, and supposedly Tim Taylor or Travis Taylor. I don't know which one. So it wasn't a John Alexander. It wasn't John Alexander that he was mad at. So I'll say that. That's pretty clear. I guarantee you that's not who he was mad at. He wouldn't get mad at. It's not his nature to do that, especially in front of other people. He was mad at somebody who wasn't there. So I won't say anything else about that. So Eric defended the memo as being legit. In the group he was in, the Facebook group, which is very tightly held. They get mad when people share tweets, but I shared that one, or messages. I copied and pasted it. I didn't put the screen grab. He said, when somebody said the memo, Peter Levenda said there was stuff in the memo that was fake. Eric said, how can somebody who is not in the know say that it's fake? Say that the memo is fake? I mean, that's the first really comment he's made on it, which it's not fake. Eric wrote it. He's not going to say it. That's the closest you're going to hear from him saying that. It's a pretty big deal. But the bigger deal is the people who are in those programs. Who cares about the Wilson Davis documents if we get somebody who was in the program? Yes, I want to see them. Yeah, Mark, it was great. There are people still denying it. I'm like, give me a break. Give me a break. So yeah, Jay did a good interview with Ross, which there's so much stuff. I wanted to go through it and just give notes. There's so much good stuff in there that Ross added to. Eric doesn't like Ross if you've seen him on Facebook, whatever. There are lots of people who don't like lots of people. Who cares? So that was, I think there may be a little more information coming out, some purse strings, and I don't mean money-wise, maybe loosening up a little bit on information. And that's on the Facebook stuff. It's like, which I could share it. I mean, I saw Martin Willis share something that Eric Davis said he believes that NIDS proved that cattle mutilations were carried out because the government had some testing, biological testing that went on, and it went haywire, and so they wanted to keep track of what happened. I don't know if Eric believes every cattle mutilation is explained by that. I will try to find out. So, yeah, I think, Eric promised Wilson in the notes that he would not go public. So, and since Wilson's not going public, he's not. But if it turns out Wilson does get subpoenaed and speaks up, I don't have any reason why Eric Davis wouldn't talk about it in the private Facebook group. And the reason it's in a private Facebook group is because his job, his employer, Aerospace, put the kibosh on him doing any media. This was during right when the New York Times article came out. So they weren't thrilled about being mentioned there. So they said, you know what? Please don't do any more media. That's all there is to that. There's nothing nefarious going on there. Trust me on that. So Eric can still go into Facebook groups. They can't keep him from doing that. So that's what he does. You think he doesn't want to go on Tucker or MSNBC or wherever, whoever will have him and speak? What, are you kidding me? I mean, he would be a ratings bonanza. He could do 2 shows. And it sucks. I am not a Tucker fan. I am far left. And it's not even politics that I have a problem with him. But he's the only one doing it. So what else? I don't know what else you can do, you know? So this was will that pull that up? So it's Grant Cameron. It was related to the John Alexander working group, and it was a message from talking about I can't even read that. So it was from Bobby Inman. It was mentioning Bobby Ray Inman and saying how there was some sort of related to crash retrievals or some sort of program. I looked into it. I've gotten a big, we don't know. I'm sorry I can't read that now. It's really not worth it. I haven't found out anything about it. Let's see. So that was a really cool image of the moon. I don't know, why can't I see pictures? Somebody took this and put together all their pictures into this one. I think like thousands of pictures. Amateurs did this. Really cool picture of the moon. Yeah, the John Alexander group was the Advanced Theoretical Physics Working Group, ATP, which he talks about in his book, UFOs. Of course, I forget the name of the book. John Alexander's he has 2 books. One's about UFOs, one's about a whole bunch of related phenomena, which is where he talks about the Bankston method, which I still can't believe Bankston doesn't get more media. It's amazing to me. But I'll be interviewing him and I will enjoy it to the fullest. So that was Brian Bender saying, "I'm buried in lies, Joe. You are too. We are in this together." Oh, really? What does that mean? Oh, I got to get that. He won't explain what that means. I hope he's working on this privately. I know he's very skeptical about a lot of stuff, but hold some weight. About time. Where the heck I'm trying to get that message off. Sorry. There it is. And I like the questions, guys. Keep them coming. You mentioned earlier, because I have a lot of information in my head from the last 10 days, that it's so slow to get out on Twitter. Joe, you mentioned earlier in the stream about Corbell and Knapp speaking in Las Vegas. Was this a public event? Yes. Not sure if I missed this one. It was public. So I saw Jeremy tweet that they were speaking at the Star Trek convention, and I messaged him. I said, hey, let's meet up for lunch or something, you know, because he comes to town every now and then. And I'm offended that he doesn't ask me to join him. So he said, yeah, come a little early. And I went up to the hotel room, hung out with him, Knapp, and somebody else, and it was really good. Then we went down and he said, it's UFO 101. You're really not going to learn anything. And I'm like, it'll still be great. And then most of the questions, they spoke a little bit. They were both great. Just keeping it, you know, what's going on the last couple of years. And then the questions, people asked a lot about Lazar. And then Jeremy said, we were supposed to do a story tonight on Coast to Coast, but there was suppression. And I don't have the exact wording. Hopefully we'll hear more from Jeremy about that. He said it's the first time he ever experienced that. So yeah, that video has not been made public. It may not be. I think they recorded it. I saw somebody in the front row recording. I thought about going up to them and saying, hey, can you go to one of those sites and just email me the file, please? But I didn't. Thought I would get it later. But he needs to expand on it. So there's really no details that I can add on that. That is a James Webb Telescope picture of Jupiter, which is pretty cool. Oh, yeah, I don't really need to see that, but that's a little painful. It's ridiculous. I have a lot of comedy stuff on there. Lou jumping in saying, despite this was about, you know, the non-man-made stuff that they want them to focus on. Despite the naysayers and deniers, thankfully Congress is doing the right thing. A big thank you to The Hill, Dean Johnson, and many others we work with, despite the petty drama created by attention seekers. That's going on as of yesterday. Don't understand it. I do my best to ignore it, but sometimes I really need to jump in. I just can't shut my mouth completely. Congress is implying that UFOs have a non-human origin. Very close. They're coming very close to that. There's the Hill headline. Merrick has written that. Merrick used to work for Obama. There's Dean Johnson, who's one of the biggest Lazar skeptics. But in Dean's defense, when they added some language about what looked to be possibly technology, he did send it to me. He's like, there you go. So I think he's open, but very little when it comes to Lazar. And Eric Davis thinks Lazar is full of it. So maybe he is. I don't really have like I said, I'm 50-50. I don't know why Bigelow is hoarding data. It's so annoying. With NIDS, he paid for it. Okay, I don't agree with it, but I can't argue it. With OSAP, we paid for the first 2 years. So why aren't you giving up your data? It's not, it's not classified. And I think that's one thing I saw. Yeah, it's the non-classified data that can be released. I've spoken to other people, and they're like, yeah, there's no reason why that can't be released. Scrub the names, scrub what you need to scrub out, and tell us what happened for the 2 years during OSAP. If there's another OSAP-like program, which I think we need, I want Bigelow nowhere near it. I'm so disgusted by him not putting out data. It's so annoying. And then you have skeptics like, I wouldn't even call him a skeptic. You say Green Street's like, oh, that makes sense. In other words, yeah, because they didn't find anything. That's why they won't release the data. I'm like, give me a break. Everybody's lying that's involved. That's worse. That's a bigger conspiracy that's harder for me to believe than to believe that somebody saw an upright wolf in their backyard. I mean, so many people would have to be lying. Why? The big nefarious lie that it's all about technology and that's what we're dealing with over the past, it's like, they just want to get the technology out. They're just going to lie about all these programs. That's all. I mean, I think OSAP wanted to figure out propulsion. That's why they were looking at certain injuries to try to figure out and back engineer what propulsion caused those injuries. But I think they're pretty confident some of this is non-human. I don't think that's what the case is. He's interested in life after death, which I haven't seen his lecture with Kelleher from the other day in Utah, but I don't think it's too horrific. I mean, a lot of the stuff in the book, I mean, you saw Kit Green say, read the book, read the references, thank the authors if you can. I don't think that stuff is too horrific. There may be other stuff that's horrific. If human mutilations are real, that's horrific. If we're somebody's property, that's horrific. It's funny because Emma Woods, if you guys are just joining us, we had a major technical problem. We'll have to reschedule her. She felt that she was always somebody else. She belonged to somebody else, which is interesting. I wanted to bring that up. This is Eric Davis from 2013, 9 years ago. UFOs are real phenomena. They are artificial objects under intelligent control. They're definitely the craft of a supremely advanced technology. Davis believes the domain for UFO investigations doesn't really lie in science. It's the domain of military intelligence, he suggests. The fact that unknown craft are flying around Earth is not a subject for science. It's a subject for intelligence gathering, collection, and analysis. That's because UFOs are not a natural phenomenon, and that's what science studies. That's what people got mad when they saw that. I understand what he's saying. It doesn't mean scientists can't be involved on some level, but trying to figure out what it is, I think scientists can be involved in that too. But I understand what he's saying there. Hold on, I will get back to some of the comments. Let me just get past this. That was a good one. I like to talk about that. And I got a fruit fly problem here, and I can't get rid of them. Is it conceivable that Bigelow is on our side and that he's waiting for the right time to release the data? I don't think so. Possibly working with the Invisible College folks? Nope. Helping disclosure process? From what I know, no. I don't know. Nobody knows why he won't release. At least they're not telling me. Bigelow protecting us? I don't think that's the case. I don't know what his deal is. Somebody suggested that, like I said, Jessica, go kick rocks. She's like, maybe he wasn't paid for one of those years. And he's like, screw you. If you don't pay me, I'm not giving this data up. But, it would be data for us, not the government. You could say, screw you to the government. You're pissed off. You spent your own money. Let us see the data. The government should have it too, but that's another story. Joe says he knows why. Oh, wait. Who is religious? Kit? I mean, there's definitely some religion there, but the guy's really smart. He's not got a religion. Or you're talking about Bigelow, I'm not sure. What? Bigelow won't release because it's cursed. They have an agenda against the witchcraft. Okay. So this was an old tweet by Greenwald. He was getting on my case saying what I believe in. He goes, "You believe in?" Oh, Bigelow is religious. Yeah, I don't think that's driving him though. I don't really see him as like a hardcore religious person. So Greenwald said to me, "You believe with no evidence in Bob Lazar." Not true. Wilson Davis, true. I have my own evidence. No doubt. He has still not commented on any of these updates that I've seen. I don't check his page too much. He has me blocked. MJ12, I think there's an MJ12 like group that existed, but I'm not sure about that one. Crashed alien saucers. I need to see it to believe it. I have a strong opinion that hopefully we have that. Whether or not it's true, I need to see it. Orbs. Yeah, there are orbs. I don't know what they are. Miracles. Yeah, my friend Michael, I do believe he was blind and had a miracle in a church. Something happened and he could see afterwards. You know, I had the priest on too. Something happened. And then he saw some lady that people thought in the church it was the Virgin Mary, and they wanted him to go on a tour, promote the Virgin Mary. And he said, nope, I don't know who she was. And then he said, I'm waiting for you to publicly state belief in the Atacama alien. Yeah, I never spent much time on that. Blue fairies, that's Corey Good, I think. The Easter Bunny, which is real. Billy Meyer. Never spent much time with Billy Meyer. Although my UFO-like cult was like Billy Meyer, the one I talked about on YouTube. Propo, I might have read a page of Project Serpo and said, I don't have time for this. You have a very low bar for your evidence and your melee tweets. So anyway, that was a couple of years ago. 2021, last year. That's an event coming up hosted by Ian Doley and Christopher King. October 8th, I think it's $20 or $30, and it has Gary Nolan and Tim Grieve Carlson, I don't know, Exo Academian. There's somebody else, I'm not sure if they added. Oh, Ralph Blumenthal, New York Times author. Wish I was in New York City, I would go. So he hasn't told us what this is, but for his movie Moment of Contact about the Virginia crash with bodies, or I don't know if it was even a crash, Brazil, which I remember seeing, I think in 96, Roger Lear, who took out alleged implants from people. He was the one that was investigating that. I'm looking forward to this documentary. I don't think it's going to bring disclosure, but, you know, it'll be good. Let's see. Kind of weird. I think Knapp would have some answers. I think Knapp said they've asked him. Him and Kelleher said they've asked. He's not putting it out. I don't know. What are you going to do? You know? Knapp has failed. I agree. They don't want people knowing about not just the dark stuff. It's anything that's not just nuts and bolts. It seems like nobody wants to talk about. That's what we were talking about with Emma. You know, she had the experiences early on, poltergeist and orbs in the room, and she had plasma-like stuff in the room, which I wanted to get into, and definitions. I do think it's all connected. How it's connected, I don't know. But they don't want to talk about it. Talk about it. What about the satanic bias at the Pentagon of the phenomenon due to Southern Baptist connection? I think that's one reason why why these people want to kill programs and not release information. But I don't think it's the only reason. It's one reason. Like I said, one reason, and the other reason would be they don't want to rock the boat. Why destroy the world? They think it's going to destroy the world and just upset too many people, which it may. And then you have people who want the secret for themselves. They don't want to share. They like having exclusivity. So, and there's probably other groups too. Technology, hoarding, money. It's going to be an uphill battle. But at least we're in the battle. We're in the fight. So better than it was when I was doing this forever ago. People who just don't think anything's been going on since 2017 are still making the same argument. They say, and this is Giuliano, who helped me so much with Wilson Davis. Nothing burger, already seen this before. The usual stuff. Every morning we have a similar shining ball above our heads. Here comes the asteroid about to kill the dinosaurs. While every young herd thinks this one specifically will be important for our lives, boring, ignore. Visit my website and become my Patreon for real news. There are people who think nothing's going on. This has all been done before. I don't agree. It's out. I don't understand the negativity. So this is, I can play this. This is from Corbell's documentary. Oh, no, it's from
a single animal.
Here you go. So this is from a George Knapp lecture he did at MUFON, and he plays. I can pull this up full, I think. I'll get back to the questions in a second. This is 6 minutes, so I can take a break for a second. I can eat something. This is good. This is about the calf, and this is one of the arguments people make. Eric Davis said this was done by, a covert military group. Really, how did they do this? So watch. There's so much. I can stay here for 7 hours. I have so much stuff. Some really cool videos.
When a family's entire livelihood depends on the well-being of its livestock, the loss of even a single animal is a serious matter. For the Gormans, the stakes were even higher. Their herd of 80 cattle consisted of high-end Simmental stock, each the product of Tom Gorman's expertise at artificial insemination. The loss of 14 valuable cows in a matter of months was devastating to the family's finances, but took a psychological toll as well. Across the country, dating back to the late 60s, hundreds of other ranchers in at least 15 other states experienced the same sense of frustration and helplessness upon discovering the grim evidence left behind by the mystery surgeons. At the Gorman Ranch, as elsewhere, the grisly handiwork was primarily carried out under the cover of darkness or during violent storms. The carved carcasses were mostly found hours or days later, during daylight. Even in sunlight, the discovery of an animal sliced up so precisely was chilling and deeply disturbing. And then it got worse. On March 10th, 1997, Tom Gorman and his wife walked out of their home and into the pasture, planning to tag the ears of several calves that had been born in the preceding days. It was a bright, clear morning. Snow was on the ground. 50 yards from their house, they found the first calf.
As they were with their dog, the two of them tagged and weighed this animal. They checked it at, I believe it was 84 pounds or 87 pounds. And they left the animal there with the mother. Everything seemed to be fine, although they did detect an odor in the air around this area. They detected a strong musk smell. They took note of it, and then they headed west. And they went about 300 yards west beyond the dog run was not there at the time, but about 300 yards beyond, towards where that incline is, and they were tagging a second animal.
Only 30 to 40 minutes had passed. The Gormans had an unobstructed view of everything in the field, but didn't see or hear anything unusual until their dog focused its attention back toward the house and the first calf.
The dog with them down here at this stage began to act really strangely. It started growling, the hair on the back of its neck went up, and it started facing back towards here, growling and snarling, and then it just took off west, away from this spot. It just took off. It was never seen again.
The Gormans were curious and walked back across the field.
First thing they saw was the mother of the animal was running back and forth, kind of in a sort of half circle from about this area to the fence line, just running back and forth, and it was limping. I mean, it was dragging its foot, it was limping. They met the animal, and they noticed that it was just totally out of breath. It was panting, it was obviously in deep stress, and it was dragging one leg.
And then they noticed the calf, or what was left of it.
Spread-eagled on the ground, just about here, with it was lying with all four limbs just spread on the ground. All of its internal body cavity was gone. It was completely, pretty well, all of its muscle was gone from the torso. The legs were still intact, but one of the ears was also gone. So they called NIDS.
The rancher placed a call to the NIDS investigators who'd returned to Las Vegas for a rare weekend off. Within a few hours, a four-man team, including a veterinarian, was on the scene.
Necropsy started, and the first thing that the veterinarian noticed during the necropsy was that the ear of the animal had been sliced off with a very sharp instrument, possibly a scalpel. And the ear had contained a very large plastic yellow tag, like an ear tag that they had just put on, and it was gone. So the necropsy proceeded. About 10 feet away from the animal, there was a femur. One of the femurs had been forcibly ripped out of a ball and socket joint, which is extremely difficult to do, I mean, in terms of strength. It looked initially, superficially like a massive predator had just lain waste to this animal, removed, 60 pounds of meat in 45 minutes, which we don't know of any predator that could have done that.
And how could a predator inflict such carnage without being seen or heard by the rancher, his wife, or his dog, who were a few hundred yards away in the same field on what was a quiet Sunday morning? No four-legged predator known to science could do it. The team gathered tissue and bone samples, which were sent to 3 independent pathology labs. The results arrived later, but confirmed what seemed obvious in the pasture that day. The calf had been carved up by someone wielding sharp metallic instruments. A heavy machete-like object had slammed into the bones. A smaller scalpel-like knife had sliced the hide and muscle.
Closer inspection revealed that it was definitely sharp instruments used. There was no sign of blood. There was no sign of entrails around. It was perfectly clean. Not a drop of blood on the grass. We went even as far as doing an experiment by pouring blood on the grass to see how fast it would seep through. Videotaped the grass and showed, even 2 days later, you could still see the stain on the grass. So there was no blood whatsoever, not a single drop, either underneath the animal, on the animal, or on the grass. It was just completely clean.
A professional tracker was brought in. He scoured every inch of ground in and around the field, looking for tracks, human, animal, or vehicle. Nothing. Eventually, the investigators reached an unsettling conclusion.
The bottom line is this animal must have been killed elsewhere because there was no blood. There was no blood on the scene, and then the animal must have been brought back, laid down carefully, almost, really almost ritually on the spot where it had been tagged.
There is no flesh. They got it all.
That was that. Yeah, I don't understand how a covert group could do that. How do I get this out? Darn it, how do I get out of that? Sorry, I'm struggling to get out of this. I went to the beginning. Jeez. Can I get back there? Nope. Oh, there, I can. Whew. Anyway, let me go to questions. Sorry. I got to eat a little bit. Well, conventions. I have no conventions. No plans to attend any conventions. Doesn't mean I won't go. I just don't have any plans right now. Sorry. I mean, I've been to so many conventions over the years. Kind of a little burned out on them. MegaCon was good a couple of years ago. Supposedly, Fox is working on getting video photo evidence from a Rahenia witness. Yeah, working to get on funds to pay him, being tight-lipped, but seems highly optimistic. I hope so. I know I saw he spoke about trying to get something like that. And people got on his case. I'm like, I don't know why, James. People get on everybody's case. He's trying. Let's see what happens. It gets boring. Some of the arguments from debunkers. I won't say skeptics. I'm beginning to think part of it is so dark. That's why they keep it hidden for 100 years. It could very well be. And sorry, I got these damn fruit flies, whatever they are. Could very well be it's dark. I mean, listen to Michael Vai. He thinks that too. Get down to more questions. Jeez. Let's see. Witches do the mutilations. Okay, I don't think witches are doing this. No, I cannot. But it's on my. I copied down the quote. word for word and copy and paste it on my. I mean, I have it saved, of course. You know how many quotes I have from Eric Davis saved from various Facebook groups? I've shared most of them. I have a lot of stuff I share, screen grabs, especially if something's controversial and I think somebody's going to delete it. I'll save it. That's basically what he said. How would somebody not in the know if the memo was fake? That's all he said, which is pretty powerful that he said anything. But that's Eric. He gets frustrated. If you're going to say something stupid, he's going to speak up. Mutilations are disturbing unless it really is a covert group using UFOs to, make us think it's UFOs. Meanwhile, they don't want us to know that the government messed up big time, and this was all because of them. Would not shock me. I know Christopher O'Brien jumped in, told Martin Willis that doesn't surprise him. That makes sense, but how do you explain the older mutilations that go back to like the 1800s? There were reports that sound like mutilations. Yeah, I mean, I would think it's not any more barbaric than what goes on in slaughterhouses. I think that's what goes. Aren't they killed while they're alive too? So, yeah, it was fast. It sucked because of the technical problems. But I'll try again. That's really disappointing. I'll give out the link if you guys want to jump on there. Any experience with data showing ETs describing a creator? Not that I know of. There may be, but it's funny. Emma had an experience, or no, it wasn't Emma. Forget the lady's name who had the near-death experience after she was struck by lightning. Jeffrey Mishlov interviewed her, and she went to this park, and she said the person was her grandfather speaking to her, and she's like, I didn't believe. I knew it was my grandfather. I figured it was God. I'm like, yeah, I don't think it was God. Maybe there's some sort of. Somebody was asking a connection between NDEs and the phenomenon. Maybe, I mean, I've thrown out this speculation. It's pretty dark that somehow they have control of that death process as far as locally. Maybe there's, a beyond that we can't get to, and they have put the kibosh on us going anywhere, some sort of manufactured at the death experience. And I know that's not popular, and I don't know if there's anything to my speculation. Some of the Farsight remote viewing deals with that, death traps. But supposedly we reincarnate and we forget. People get abducted, they forget. Is there same technology going there that how people forget? And then some people remember reincarnation. Some of the kids will remember their past lives. Some amazing cases with Ian Stevenson. Some abductees, their memories are fresh. Some abductees, they're not. Crazy theory of mine, but yeah, there may be a connection between ultra terrestrials, what John Keel talked about, and the afterlife, and they're just messing with us. I don't know. That would be upsetting. That doesn't mean there's not an afterlife. There could be something else that we're just not able to access because they put some sort of block on. I don't know. And then people are like, no, we're here to learn lessons, and you just repeat your life and you keep learning lessons. Never made sense. I shouldn't say never made sense to me, but it seems like, people are like, I was dead and I went to the light, and then I'm like, I have to go back. I'm like, really? You don't have to go back. But everybody goes back, at least the stories we hear. Maybe there are people who don't go back and we don't hear their stories because they're dead. When I talk about witches, I talk about highly adept ones, the flaming balls of fire. Okay, I don't know anything about that. We know who's in the saucers, the triangles. Don't know who's in the Tic Tac, attributed to Elizondo. Yeah, by Jeremy McGowan, who was at his place in Wyoming a few years ago. And then I brought it up. Somebody brought it up to Sean Cahill, and Sean said it was BS, some story I was working on. But I shared it with somebody I trust, not expecting a response, and they said that is accurate information. And then I fed the rest of it to that person, saying this person also said the triangles are us and them basically flying together, and the person did not respond to that. I think for us, if we found out there was some sort of ET group that was working with us, or non-human group, or maybe they're human relatives, that would be great. That'd be cool. But I didn't get any feedback on that. It was ignored. It's instant. Cattle feel no pain when slaughtered. Meat tastes terrible when animals experience adrenaline rush prior to or during death. Of course, if there's mutilations going on by humans, they don't care if the meat tastes bad because nobody's going to eat that meat anyway. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Oh yeah, in the Green Street piece he did, I got to add that in again. Let's see if I can get rid of that. We'll go back. We'll go back to the Twitter screen. Grab Chrome. Boom. The Green Street stuff he did on so cherry picked. It's so ridiculous. I'm like, really? It's so easy to pull apart. And one of the things he says, you know, he talks about the book with the Myers who owned the ranch before the Gormans. Is it the Gormans? George uses the pseudonym. It's Shermans, the Shermans. So it was Myers, the Shermans, and then Bigelow. And supposedly the Myers. No, we had no weird experiences. But then you have this Chris Porrett. He was a sheriff that worked with Garth Myers, saying that Garth had some experiences, you know, that he couldn't explain with bulls. And it's like Green Street totally ignores it. It's not even worth talking about. It's amazing that people watch him, and he's got a platform with the New York Post. Leslie Kean's Surviving Death series on Netflix is fantastic, and there's something I saw on that show that I've never seen before, some of it. But yeah, one of the most impressive, and I knew about this beforehand, there are physical mediums allegedly who could bring physical dead people into the room. I don't know if it's really physical dead people, but supposedly that's what it looks like. Leslie was up close, saw a human hand form, shook the hand. As crazy as that sounds, if you look into the old physical mediumship stuff that was studied, there's a book called Ghost Hunters by Deborah Bloom, who's a Pulitzer Prize winning science writer who used to work for the New York Times. Doesn't focus just on physical mediumship. I mean, it touches on it, but great book on life after death. I mean, spoiler, there's no conclusion. From the scientists who studied it in the late 1800s, big names, Frederick Myers, who's the guy, William James, there was a lot of them. The guy who created, William Crookes, who discovered thallium. Great book. So what are you hearing about recent pushback to ongoing efforts? Is the pushback the direct effect of the whistleblower language? Rumors of folks from legacy programs about to go on the record? I'm sure that's part of it. They're probably freaking out. I don't think it's government. I would think government is smart enough not to engage in that. I mean, there may be some pushback and request not to put out information like that. But if there's anything more than that, because, you know, we talk about people being afraid, I don't think that would be government. So maybe the contractors that are doing that, because they have a lot to lose. Of course, that's illegal. I don't know what's going to happen there. I hear things from behind the scenes. I'm glad stuff is going on, but it's a slow process, and there are bumps in the road. And Lou has warned us. Bumps in the road. People don't want this out. Some people really don't want this out. I mean, this is a huge deal, and maybe it's because it's so dark. You know, I don't know. That could be part of it. I don't have evidence of that. You know, I just hear things. You know, Will Miller is talking about a document that only one or two people. I don't know if it was NSA, head of the NSA. I forget. I have it on my blog, but he's like, only one or two people were able to see it. It's so highly classified. I'm like, if it's dealing just with extraterrestrials, why would it be that classified? It doesn't make any sense, as you guys have said too. It seems the areas of the cow's bodies that are taken are those with high hormone levels. Yeah, maybe. Let's say it is a covert group. Maybe they're doing what they need to do, and then they're taking other parts just to make it look like it's aliens. I mean, that would be the story why you would see, if it's all humans, it would be a cover just so people don't realize it's really humans doing that. That's just my theory. But, you know, that's not a new theory that the government uses UFOs. I don't think that's going on with everything, but if they can, why not? You know, if you don't want people to find out you're the ones who are doing it. I don't know if that's the case though, but Eric was really strong, and I don't think I'm going to get to those comments here. It was, and I haven't even been able to find his post about it. It was Martin Willis reading. Yeah, that's something I really need to look into more. I mean, Michael Vi pointed it out to me, and I forget the guy about it and did a video who does the TikTok stuff. He pointed it out. Yeah, they may be. I don't think Davis is connected to that, but Stratton and Taylor, I do think there may be some UFO stuff going on, but I don't have any inside information on that. They might be, though. They realize you need to do it privately, whatever you're going to do, because the government's just too slow, and this is so important that we need to do it now. Yeah, it could be, Jeff. It could be that's what's going on. Like I said, as long as Bigelow isn't involved, I'll be okay. It doesn't mean we're going to see it. These are private companies. I want it to be a public crowdsourcing type of thing. We control it. We put the person in charge. They don't keep anything from us. How hard can that be? Come on. We don't have the funding, though. That's a problem with TTSA. Funding. Problem with Hal Puthoff. Eric Davis had to leave. Funding. Nothing. That was another thing Bob McGuire said. I think Hal Puthoff is a bad boss. He sent Eric to Alabama because the Wilson Davis stuff leaked. Nope, that's not what happened. It was all funding, normal business stuff, speculation. Yeah, there will be a Vi show soon, and I plan on going to see him later this year, along with some other people, which I have not talked about, which I probably will not say when I'm going, but later this year. I'm going east, probably driving, and I will listen to John Keel for my 20-something hour trip to the southeast. Mike Levia is in Nashville or Tennessee, that area. What did I just pull up there? Yes, Vi. Michael is really on top of things. It's really impressive to see. And we're on the same wavelength with a lot of stuff. This is Dave's update. I'm going to try to be a little more. Dave updating on the USS Kearsarge UAP investigation. Other objects were other ships encountered these objects. All this. I have so much stuff on my Twitter. It's been a really good Twitter couple of weeks. I think as far as investigating cattle mutilation, Chris O'Brien is number one. As far as, I think he's done 200 cases in the field. And he was on the Tucker Carlson special on cattle mutilations, which was really good, except it was overly graphic. I didn't really think they needed to do that. Colm Kelleher talked about it, too, in his book, Brain Food, I think, talking about a connection to mad cow disease, which was a theory. I don't know if that's true, if you believe Eric Davis talking about how NIDS discovered it was some sort of bioweapon, that testing that got loose. Let's see. This is the same thing I had there before. This is hilarious. I wish I had. I don't think I have the video version of this. So this is. We're never going to get disclosure, basically, is what it's saying. So top left this is really good software. So that's Corbell. There's George Knapp in the middle. I showed this to Jeremy. He's like, poor George. Travis Taylor on the right. There's Lou. If this happens, I'm quitting. I would hope I'd quit ufology before then. This is like so sad. Chris Mellon, Tom DeLong, bottom left, Gary Nolan, and Eric Davis. I haven't not showed this to Eric. Let's see if the Mike Herber did this, turn this into video. I don't know if it's on here. It was pretty funny. It was made into a video. Darn it. I'll find it and then retweet it. So, and I said I'll be dead by the time that happens. Merrick does great work talking about unknown unknowns. I don't want to get into that now. He's talking about the language, I believe, talking about helping people come forward. Language was written for a reason. Congress knows what they're doing. But we'll get to it tonight, but somebody interviewed on the spot Kirsten Gillibrand, senator from New York, and she's like, the person who's in charge, which is Sean Kirkpatrick, went looking for the archives historical information. He was denied access. I told him just focus on the current FAA and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but you better get back to the archival data and all of that stuff, because that's where you're going to find legacy programs. We cannot let that go. This is more Eric Davis stuff. Let's see. I will get to the question. I see there's questions on there. Oh, that's Greenwald stuff. Let's see. I'm at 2 hours. I can do 3 hours. Not sure if you can say, but has Eric ever expressed any dissatisfaction at being unable to do any media? Or does he seem optimistic at what's currently happening? All right. I've never sensed any optimism from him, but that's just how he is. I think he may have been optimistic before the New York Times article came out, but he's not one to say, this is exciting like I do. He'll calm me down. He's like, nah, you're getting too excited. And as far as just, I don't want to share stuff privately, but you could tell how he is. He loves talking about this stuff. I mean, I could speculate and say, yes, of course he's not happy he can't do media. And you see other people doing media. I mean, he has so much information in his head. It's like, it's such a waste, especially right now. Not that too many media would have him on. He could still do podcasts like mine, but I want him to do, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, network news. I want people to realize what the hell is going on and wake up, but it's not happening. Even if Eric was here, they don't want to do it for whatever reason. It's really frustrating. Don't know what's going on. So this was John Greenwald to 2021 saying, I'll be honest with you, I do not believe the claim. And it was a video he put out. Oh, I could just put it out here. I have the video. You know what? I don't want to take a chance on him. He doesn't like me. Give me a copyright strike. I'm allowed to do reaction stuff. He said, I'll be honest with you. I do not believe the claims by Eric Davis that he briefed in a classified setting or otherwise about off-world vehicles. So I'm like, it's like, give me a break. You had Mellon basically say he was there on Capitol Hill and Eric gave his briefing. And then Eric jumped in and said Greenwald should be very careful about who he calls a liar in public. The many individuals on the 2 Senate committees who attended my briefings know the facts, as does a DOD component staff that was directly involved, plus the invited guests, late 2019. And Leslie Kane and Blumenthal also know the facts because they have to check and verify their facts before the New York Times editor gave approval to publish their July 23rd, 2020 article. So, in effect, Greenwald Jr. is calling Keen and Blumenthal and the New York Times liars, too. And yeah, we know the New York Times got some stuff wrong, but they're not wrong about Eric. Greenwald Jr. is suffering from Dunning-Kruger. Basically, you think you know more than you do about a specific topic. Like we get into the weeds here with this. So, what else was there? Yeah, Dunning-Kruger's psychology of cognitive bias, where people with limited knowledge or competence in a given intellectual or social domain greatly overestimate their own knowledge or competence in that domain relative to objective criteria. It's like, does John think that Mellon was making up the story to Eric briefed people? I mean, come on. I mean, that was a New York Times quote about off-world vehicles, and then Eric Davis, his comments from I think it's the Jack Sarfati email list, where he says those craft are off-world, and I've told 2 Senate committee staffs and DOD agencies. And then people are like, oh, I'm like, yeah, usually it's the staffers. They're the lifeblood of the senators and the Congress people. That's not to say it's diminished the staffers of those briefings. And then Eric says, my response a minute ago about those being off-world vehicles is not my opinion, but it's where the physics and the facts lead. Let me look at some of the questions. I see there's questions up there. Give me 1 second. I will scroll up. I went too far back. Greenwald's video. Did I not go? Yeah, sorry. Questions. Any thoughts on Kirkpatrick? Elizondo seemed hesitant. Yeah, he did when he was on Need to Know. He's like, just give everybody a chance. So I hear stuff, same thing behind the scenes. I've heard, let's see what he does, basically. Let's see. People are cautious, not Lou. I wasn't talking to Lou. I wasn't talking to Eric. So we'll see. Yeah, I would not be. I mean, if he went to a large outlet, obviously, I understand. But it would be great if Eric does get to do media and he came to me. I would be upset if he went to some other podcast, unless it was like, Theories of Everything, such a huge reach. But I think I could do a pretty good interview with him, and I would prepare like you would never not believe. Okay, Bob, I don't know what you're saying. Viruses. So let's see. The Good Trouble Show, which is a new show I haven't gotten to watch yet. That was deleted by Project Unity. So Knapp retweeted some NIDS experiments, which the links are there, where NIDS tried to emulate the mystery mutilators and find out if microwave energy was being used to cover up the cows. I need to read those. Those are old NIDS reports that were put online. They also studied the possible link between cow mutilations and brain wasting disease. Here's one of the papers. This was something put out by, I think it was Red Panda Koala. Excellent. I know. Hopefully, the people who are on just YouTube, I can't put every link from my Twitter onto here. It would take forever. Let's see. What was I saying? People think I'm crossing the line. Oh, somebody was questioning my mental state because of Wilson Davis. I'm like, give me a break. Disagree all you want. At this point, I don't see how you can disagree that the notes are real and he interviewed Wilson. It's like, it's just amazing to me. Yeah, that's the person who questioned my mental state. Let's see. This is Knapp. Good stuff by Knapp right here. I like having videos. It's like show and tell.
So I guess I'll wrap it up and let you ask some questions. But I mean, we don't know the answer. Nobody knows the answer. How does all this stuff fit together? Is it ET or alien? Well, it's not exactly what we think of as ET. Is it the military? Maybe some of it. It could be the military doing some psychological exercise. Did the military take that calf, and carve it up and dump it back there? Did the military, did commandos get into the bathroom and take the towel and the hairbrush? Imagine giving that order. Go take her hairbrush and put it in the freezer. The military didn't do all this stuff. This stuff has been going on for 250 years. Maybe they're doing it now, but they didn't start it. So that's not an explanation. Interdimensional? I don't know. I don't know. Is it all related? It seems like we got a learning curve here. That it's telling us that it is somehow related. That reality isn't what it used to be. That it's much more wondrous and mysterious than we might imagine. And we need to start thinking about it in those kinds of terms. At least I hope that's what it is, as opposed to just alien teenagers just messing with us. I know that there is a Native American connection. There's a Native American connection to the other hotspots that I mentioned before. But I don't really understand it. I think they seem to have a better grasp of this and are more comfortable with it than we are. Than the rest of the culture. But getting them to open up has been tough. We have made progress recently, and you'll be able to see it when the film comes out. But, the NIDS guys did what they're supposed to do. And that's what Jeremy and I have been trying to do as well, is to, investigate the unexplained, not to explain the uninvestigated. Thank you.
So he was talking about the hairbrush in the freezer. Did commandos do that? He's talking about Gwen Sherman, she'd be in the shower and go into the kitchen. She'd put the groceries away, and then they'd be out. She'd turn around, and all of a sudden the groceries were out again, kind of like the movie Poltergeist. She'd take a shower. The hairbrush in there would wind up in the freezer. It's like, that's anomalous. I would think your military isn't sending somebody in to take her hairbrush and then put it in the freezer. This is a great, NAP is open to the military angle because people are it's all military. I'm like, do you read Skinwalker? Have you read Hunt for the Skinwalker? Do you listen to George Knapp lectures? Obviously not. Okay. You don't, because he's open to all of these possibilities. The criticism he gets is beyond me. You want to criticize Lazar? Fine. I don't have a strong opinion. But the other stuff he's done, the work he's done, you have a mainstream journalist working on the story, and you're tearing him apart and complaining. It's just, give me a break. I don't get it. I don't watch Dark Journalist. He's Mr. Conspiracy. What I don't know what his theory is, so let me know. He's have been really bad takes. What echo? You guys are hearing an echo? Or is it just one person? This one is Symphony Hall sound also. Why is that? Maybe, I think I know why. I'll figure it out. I figured it out. It's the mic. I just got to kill the mic. That's all. No, I think it's the mic. You guys tell me in the next video I play. I'll show you. Sorry. That should fix it. It's just the audio coming from my laptop feeding into the mic. Feedback loop. So this one person said to Fox, I've heard a shit ton of compelling testimony. Don't care anymore. Either get us the goods or step off. Step off, George. Seinfeld. Not like this one, you haven't, says James Fox. And I will never step off. Please remember that we are all people doing our best, myself for nearly 30 years, and one must never forget to be kind to others no matter how frustrated you may feel. Thank you, James. Yeah, muting the mic is going to fix it. We'll try it next. Here we go. 4.5 minutes. I could finish my dinner. Okay, I'm gonna get out. I'm actually gonna get out so I can not be on screen. I'll mute it too. All right, here we go. Let me know how this goes.
Like a sun, a big orange orb that would appear once in a while on the property. And he would get out his scope. Among the strange things that the rancher had seen in the sky were these really big, almost like a sun, a big orange orb that would appear once in a while on the property. And he would get out his scope, and on occasion, you look through these orange orbs. They're not orbs at all, like a hole in the sky. And on the other side was another sky, and it was different. If it was daytime here, it's nighttime over there. If it was daytime there, it was nighttime here. And occasionally, he would see things flying in and out of what looked like a portal. At other times on the property, he'd see these amorphous yellowish balls of light that would appear at different times in association with phenomena. When these balls of light would appear floating over the pasture, weird stuff would happen. Creatures would appear. Well, one night, while the NIDS guys are on the property, they have an experience with one of these yellow balls of light that strongly suggested to them that the ranch is a highway, a portal, a road to other realities. We'll play the clip. We don't know. We don't know what it is. That was one theory, that it certainly sounds like it's a portal as we understand it, but really that stuff is over my head. Those guys don't know. They're just, throwing out one idea and telling you what they actually saw. They had some really harrowing encounters on the property themselves. There was, those two guys were walking again in the middle homestead at night. They have a couple of dogs with them. And the dogs suddenly go behind their legs. They're hiding, they're scared of something. And up at the top of the trees, they see this dark cloud that's floating. It's floating across the trees, getting bigger and bigger, and it stops right in front of them, and they freeze. And this thing, Eric Davis, who's a PhD physicist, brilliant man, has worked for top secret labs and things, he's frozen, and suddenly another voice comes out of him. It's not his, it's them. We're watching you. He's saying this, we're watching you. Colum is looking at him, what? And it's not him, it's somebody else speaking through him in a different voice. He snaps out of it after a couple of minutes. The cloud goes away. Eric was messed up for a couple of days, having terrible dreams, couldn't sleep. But it was a real thing. You know, there were other weird things that they investigated. So, you know, we decided when we wrote the book, we're going to put them all in, and people can sort it out themselves. The only incident that we hesitated about, that we argued about maybe leaving out, is this one. Two Native American police officers are driving through the range. I told you the whole ranch is surrounded by tribal land. There's a road, there's a paved road that leads to the dirt road that leads into the ranch. They're coming around the bend, it's nighttime, and they see two figures standing right at the bend. Their backs are to the road. The guys shine their lights over there. What are these two guys up to? Two 6-foot-tall guys in trench coats smoking cigarettes. They shine the light over to them. The guys turn around their heads. They're dogs. I know, I'm not making that up. They're dogs. They're dog faces. These Indian cops look at each other. Holy crap. They look back. Dogs are gone. Trench coat's gone. They get out of the car. Cigarettes still burning on the ground. Now, we thought, maybe we'll leave that one out. That sounds pretty crazy. But you know what? I mean, since the book came out in 2005, there's all kinds of dogman stories that we've been hearing from around the country. So we kept it in. You know, the NIDS guys tried to communicate with whatever it was. They had different experiments that they tried to talk to whatever it is, and that failed. After a while of hunting the Skinwalker got tired of the game and decided, I'm going away. The activity plummeted. It went underground, and the phenomena seemed to make a statement that it was tired of this.
So that's the Eric Davis story. Frozen in place, voice speaking through him, and Eric, he's like, yeah, I don't think that was possession. Possessions usually are different and last longer. It's like, he's just talking matter of fact, but George said it messed him up, although Eric will not really, he'll downplay it when you ask him about it. He's spoken about it in various Facebook groups before, you know, like 3 or 4 years ago. That would be a great, imagine raffling that off. That'd be great. George has so many stories, and he tells the stories so well. Yeah, it's creepy, you know. It's like, you think Eric Davis wants to tell that story? I mean, he did, but now I think he would tell it if he had the chance himself. And it's like, do people think he's doing this for money or for notoriety? Just make up a story because some people may have made stories up. Security guards at the ranch during the OSAP years. Maybe it's like, give me a break. Give me a break. I think Eric has confirmed it. He's spoken about it before. I think he might have spoken about it in the old nap footage that I played with the calf. It just has to be pulled out of the archive, and I don't think it was put in the movie Hunt for the Skinwalker. I had to play the dogs in the trench coat because it's an example of people reporting something. They were tribal police that is so outrageous, preposterous, as Jackie Childs would say from Seinfeld. It's outrageous. It's preposterous. But they still shared the story, and Knapp and Keller put it in the book. Whether or not it was the phenomena creating that, or there really are dogmen, who the hell knows? But it's not something I would want to share with anybody. But they did. You know, they shared the story. What kind of dogs? I believe they were St. Bernards. No, I don't know. I don't know what kind of dogs. I mean, we'd love to get those people on the record, but it's like the way people react to stories that are even beyond nuts and bolts. It's like, why do you want to talk about that? You're going to get slammed. I mean, I showed you today on. I didn't show you. We're not going to get to it. There's no way I'm going to get through all my tweets, but I heard poodles do smoke on Sundays. A pug in man. Oh, that pug is scary. I don't want to even think about that pug. Let's see. What else do we have? What do we have in the wild, wild world of sports? So this is Chris Porrett, introduced by Ryan Skinner on Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. He was talking about the Myers, Garth Myers having an experience. Totally left out of the Stephen Greenstreet YouTube video. I don't know how you do something on Skinwalker and leave that out. And then you call yourself a journalist, but you call George Knapp a paranormal journalist. Ugh, don't get me started. Space Force. I was just pointing out, somebody was saying that Chris Sharp at Liberation Times were reporting on the Space Force and how they're connected to UFOs. And I had tweeted about it in May of 21 that I heard that there was a connection to UFOs with the Space Force. And then I said earlier this year, it's working on technology to measure UAP, because what we have right now is just not good enough. And it wasn't intended to measure UAP. So basically, and I do that stuff not to say, I was right, guys. No, I'm just trying to show you that the people I talk to, when I share information, they know what's going on. It's accurate information. So use that going forward. Doesn't mean I'm going to continue to get information from these folks. But if I do get it and I share it, it's not 100%. One thing I heard that was wrong was that there was a major problem with the 180-day report and it might not come out. But then the same person said that was not accurate information. Sorry, but they apologized. I did have one source give me bogus information, but I still communicate with that person. I knew it was bogus as soon as I heard it. So what else? John Lennon and UFOs. This was the Garth Myers brother of Kenneth Myers, who owned the ranch before the Shermans. They owned the ranch for a long time. Basically, Brandon saying that Gwen Sherman, Terry Sherman's wife, who owned the ranch before Bigelow, who ranch too, he admitted to Gwen that he had knowledge of disturbing events occurring on the property. So, is Gwen Sherman lying too? Then you couple that with Porrett, who said he had experiences with Garth Myers talking about experiences on the ranch. I don't think everybody is lying. Fortunately, we don't have evidence. And if Bigelow does, he's not letting it out. So it's from a black hole, I believe, right? Yeah, black hole, what a black hole sounds like. Imagine getting trapped in this thing. Yeah, I don't really want to visit that black hole. No thanks. What do you say? Should I give out the link so people can jump on here? And I have so much stuff going on. I mean, I have so much tweets to get through. This is ayahuasca. So this is somebody who I've watched lectures with. She used to live in Vegas, Kat Courtney. If you're going to do ayahuasca, I would say go to her. But in April, she spent 3 days in jail, faced very severe DMT-related drug charges with ayahuasca. The main ingredient is DMT, with a possibility of up to 40 years in prison, up to 40 years. She pled guilty and received 1 year probation, but she can't do any of her work she was doing. I've never partaken in ayahuasca. If I were to do it, it would be through her. She's got a year off, though. She can't do anything like that. She can just help out other people. But here we go. This is part of Crystal O'Brien, so I'll get to that in a second. I have the whole thing. I saved it. I taped it. I'm going to tweet it out. Let's see. Questions. From a biotech standpoint, if we had to write access to our visual processing center of the brain, dino beavers and dogmen wouldn't just be anomalous. It would be expected. Yeah, I don't know if that's what's going on, or I don't know if whatever's going on is just playing with us, as John Keel said, as a cosmic joke, just for the devil of it, the narrator says. So I don't know. My great grandpa had 2 pugs. One would steal his lit cigars and walk around with it in his mouth. There you go. I believe the smoking dogs ate the cats. Actually, the smoking dogs were not on the ranch. It was in the Uinta Basin. That whole Uinta Basin area. That's really what I want to see from the OSAP data. Not Skinwalker Ranch, the Uinta Basin and other areas. I'm not going to go through every comment here, but yeah, I don't know if there were any cats on the ranch. You had the caretakers. A year off with her ayahuasca. She is amazing. I mean, she's done so many ayahuasca ceremonies. Really good explainer on the ceremony, on what people should expect, on integrating it into your life. It's a big deal with ayahuasca integration. People, a lot of them will go to a ceremony and not have any integration. Yeah, that was really cool, that black hole. People messing with our brain, maybe that's what's happening. That are having a breakdown. The phenomenon seems to want conflict. I don't know what's going on, but you won't see me melt down. I'll have my days on Twitter where I will be negative for a little bit, but that doesn't last. And I said something political today. Somebody says, "Oh, you're going to go political on us?" I'm like, "Yeah, for one tweet. Give me a break." I have 38,000 tweets. I think I can be a little political with one in the day. All right, so here's Christopher O'Brien on Tucker. Like I said, I have everything he said saved in 2 videos I just need to put out.
On the hill there, it says San Luis. O'Brien spent 13 years researching reported mutilations in the San Luis Valley. He recorded his findings. October 24th, 1:40. Until now, that footage sat in a storage unit in upstate New York, but he agreed to go through his videos for us, one by one. I investigated around 200 cases, and out of those, I figured about 40, maybe 50 were real high-strange mutilations. This animal was blown apart by a lightning strike. The rancher went out a day later, and the thing had been cut up. We're 6 miles north of center, 3 miles east. All the internal organs were gone. Heart, lungs, liver. The brain was still there. But this is an animal, a very interesting case. People say, well, how come it's always the upside organs that are gone? This animal, the cut side was down, which totally negates any sort of scavenger or predator. This animal looked like somebody had taken a giant blowtorch and blowtorched out the rear end and the genitalia. What is a plausible explanation? There is none. This is an animal. It's a classic case. You can see the mandible is excised. The tongue has gone from deep within the throat and the esophagus. This is an animal. They went out the following morning and they found their prize seed bull dead. You can see all the flies on it. They all were dead on the hide. It was found missing its missing the moneymaker. This was a real case and very bizarre one too. This guy, he heard the sound of like a tornado and he was like, "What the hell is this?" He went outside and there was a huge helicopter above his cottonwood trees, above his house. And he said there was no engine sound whatsoever. The only sound I heard was the whooping, of the blades and the thrashing of the trees. And he was an actual helicopter mechanic in the military. And he said he was dumbfounded. He goes out the next day and finds 4 of his animals mutilated. Really close to the ranch house. This was the most disturbing case I ever had. This animal was found in a
Have the whole thing, which I just need to tweet out and include that in the my Nolan transcript. Why can't I get out of this thing? Damn it. So I need to find a long video so I can take Cookie out. What is that? 4 legs and a hide left behind. So that's a mutilation case from the 1800s. Obviously, so O'Brien's talking about helicopters where you can't even hear the blades. So covert human group. And there's another clip he's talking about how they found mescaline in the bodies. They found cyanide, the stuff they use, the drugs they use when they kill people, in prison. They put them to death. Barbiturates, anticoagulants, coagulants. I don't think aliens are using any of that. Like I said, there may be some high strangeness cases, but I think when Eric Davis says they're a covert group, I think that does explain the majority of cases. But then Christopher Bryan talks about older cases like this.
April 19th, 1897, in Leroy, Kansas. A farmer named Alexander Hamilton, his son, and a farmhand are awakened by strange noises from the cattle pen. Going outside, they discovered, to Hamilton's utter amazement, an enormous airship with a brilliant searchlight is slowly descending over the cow lot. Fearfully, Hamilton moves closer and is startled to find that one of his cows has been caught by a red cable running down from the ship. The next day, after an extensive search, he discovers the cow's hide, legs, and head in a field miles away. This is one of the first recorded cattle mutilations connected with UFOs. The report could easily be dismissed as a tall tale if there were no others. But since then, thousands of bizarre animal mutilations have been discovered, not only in this country, but in Africa, Australia, Brazil, and many European countries, in fact, all over the world.
So maybe those mutilations were going on, and then the government had some bioweapons accident. They said, you know what, let's do the testing and we can blame it on UFOs because it already happened. So people won't really be able to tell. They know these cases have been going on. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe it's a mix. I don't know. I need to take a break to take the dog out. Otherwise, he's get back in. I wish I had a video to play handy, but I don't think I have. What's that? No, drones invading Vegas. I have more videos to play, but here we go. Here we go. 5 minutes. I could do this. I got to time it. Let me make sure I have time. You guys be entertained. Let me put the timer on. Stopwatch. And look at that picture of Eric. Give me a break. You couldn't find a better picture? I put a better picture on Facebook, and then Jessica turned it into a better image, and then I think Tupacabra put it on a shirt. Anyway, let me play this. And if you still think Eric Davis did not write the Wilson memo, I cannot help you. And then, like I said, Eric jumped in on a Facebook group. And that was from Need to Know. If you type in Need to Know on YouTube, I need to pull and put all these links, but there's so many links. I didn't know how many. I didn't know I was going to do this, first of all. Eric Weinstein saying, yeah, he still, this is what Eric said. He said, you're not going to find that Christopher O'Brien interview on YouTube, but you can find Christopher O'Brien interviews if you type in the right words, but maybe I'm wrong. I haven't looked in a little bit. I think I tried the other day. I think you're right. It was hard to find. Weinstein says, when government and ex-U.S. government folks reach out to you on UFOs, you get told you're about to have mind-blowing discussions and revelations as to what's going on. And I've had many interesting conversations, but revelations always get canceled. It has now happened multiple times to me. How many times? 2, 3, 4? I think those who have reached out are generally sincere, but the pattern is indicative of a deep internal conflict. There is an internal conflict. There's people who want this out, and there's people who really don't want it out. My guess is that whatever the story turns out to be, some horrible things have been done to innocent people to keep this ambiguous, whether it's PSYOP or aliens. I don't know if the horrible things have been done to people. I think things have been done to people that should not be done. It may not be horrible. It just should not be done. People don't want it out. So as Lou said, some people are intimidated by some group on the black side of house, is what Lou said. Talking about people going after Gary. He's like, some people are so narrow-minded they can't squeeze out a cogent thought. Oh, boo-hoo. They ask a question and don't get answered. Some things are just nobody's business. I don't know what he was talking about exactly. This is Jeremy on more about back to what Nolan was saying. He doesn't know if it's technology. Yeah, if it's something so advanced they're able to like 3D print something out of thin air, it may not be technology. Maybe something that's and you know, I know Gary's made this argument that it's some sort of throwaway throwaway dummy craft, you know, to distract us or whatever. And you read Keel and talks about maybe possibly they can create anything out of thin air. Why? Maybe they're trying to trick us into thinking they're ETs because they're Earth-based and they don't want us to focus on them. I don't know. Or as John Keel said, just for the devil of it, to screw, you know, just to play around with us. I don't know if they're that far advanced and they can create stuff like that out of thin air. We're kind of at their mercy. This is what I'm doing now. I plan to do this on YouTube from the 24th. I'm not even close. Eric Weinstein has flipped as far as totally skeptical about UFOs, but he's still, you know, annoyed that he was not given access. Was going to give him access to stuff. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Nolan said Eric was part of a group that I was associated with. Do we know which group he's talking about? Is he simply just the Invisible College? I don't know. ATIP? I don't know. I don't know what group it is. No idea. Yeah, it's on. That's how I have the copy on BitChute too, which I tweeted out. So somebody on Twitter says, "So exciting!" Talking about one of those videos I played. We have an alien craft confirmed. And I said, FYI, that has not been confirmed. I wish it was. Confirmed is seeing it. Step before seeing it is have people who worked in the programs telling us exactly what they worked on. And in Trinity Valley talks a little bit about Wilson Davis. Nothing conclusive there. At this point, though, we have Eric Davis talking about, and this is me saying the people who denied Wilson Davis, this is what they look like when they realized that Gary Nolan just basically confirmed it being real. And if you watch Breaking Bad, that's when Hank realized that Walter White was Heisenberg. WW. Yeah, the person was predicting a New York Times article coming on Monday, whatever day it was. I'm like, nah, haven't heard anything from anybody. Of course, if they do another one and Wilson Davis is part of it, probably not going to hear about it. Like last time, I heard it from so many different people. And there were people out there saying, nope, no New York Times article is coming. Leslie Kane said there's no article. I'm like, the article's coming. I don't care what Leslie says. She's not going to admit it. Come on. Yeah, just more about what Nolan said. People were like, "Did he really say that?" T-shirts. Buy that. And then me being sarcastic. Yeah, but Admiral Wilson still denies it. I'm like, really? Admiral Wilson's going to deny it until he's under oath and given immunity. May not even be immunity. They're under oath and compelled to speak about it. Anything you can share from your recent meeting with Corbell on Knapp? Nope, I cannot. Nothing that would violate confidences, of course. Any word on military shootdowns? Nope, I did not talk about that with Jeremy. Talked about it, stuff going on Twitter. Some stuff I did learn. Can't talk about it. I'm trying to think. Just more of the same, though. Nothing brand new. It's just nice to have more information. It's all similar, you know. The PSYOP angle just doesn't hold weight to me. But let's see this play out, you know. Things are happening. I think most people are patient. Most people realize that the pace that we're on right now is just mind-blowing compared to what it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago. It's like Congress is not going to let up. I was told by somebody how important that language is. And the NDAA is so important. They're like, don't underestimate it. It is huge. They're really sticking their necks out here. It's going to be up to them to see how far they push, because the powers that be don't want this information out. But I've also heard positive things. But until it happens, we'll see. Just can't complain at this point right now. Even if we have a couple of months that are slow, I mean, come on. Let's see what happens when the NDA is hopefully passed in January. I think what Cahill was talking about was the Eric Davis information, the interview with Ross. It's pretty big to see Nolan say that. For most folks, most people, it's not enough. They're still skeptical, but whatever. They'll always be skeptical. Even if Eric came out, they'd say he's lying. More about, people were commenting on Nolan. But John Greenwald, one of his theories was Eric Davis notes were a screenplay, possibly written by Davis, because the X-Files had just been canceled and Fox wanted a new sci-fi series. So maybe Eric Davis wrote them and trying to get a show sold. It's so preposterous. So that's Mike Colangelo fooling around saying, come on, it's obviously a screenplay created in August. And I said, thanks, John. John Greenwald is the one who floated that theory. He's been very quiet on Wilson Davis lately. Sisters of Mercy. I hope I don't have to remove that for copyright. It's possible. I love that cat. And I like his choice of music. Oh, darn it. Yeah, I'm not having Bassett on. Steve Bassett has been talking about since I've been in this, and eventually it's going to happen. So he does other shows. I'm sorry. No offense, but not on my list. And don't take that as me being arrogant, not wanting to speak to him. It's just personal preference. I have other people, so many other people I want to get to first. I haven't heard anything from Bassett lately. This is more from Nolan. I think it's really brave of him to talk about this, and I know he's hesitant now. Maybe he got pushback. I don't know. You're going to have to tune in to Need to Know for the London experience. The fact that somebody of his stature working at Stanford is willing to talk about that is momentous. If you're an experiencer, it's amazing people are criticizing for this. And I doubt the experiences just stopped after a week or so. It's not how it works. If you talk to experiencers, it's a lifelong thing. Mark. The last thing he said was we were going to be nuked by Putin any day. Who said that? Who said that? Nolan takes guts to talk about that. I don't see any positive comes out from that. But he's getting slammed from some folks. And then Charlie Parrish said, it seems like Gary Nolan has had abduction events. UFOs aren't here to hang out with the U.S. Navy. I don't know what UFOs are here to do. It may be something totally separate that the Navy's dealing with. Could be drones, could be not, could be something different, could be another species, could be something interdimensional. I have no idea. I just know that the pyramid stuff that Jeremy talked about is not something he came up with. It was from the classified reports they were shown. And yes, journalists can be shown classified stuff. Look up the Pentagon papers if you don't believe that. And those were published. They were classified. They were very important for the American people to see what was going on in Vietnam. This is more important. This is more important than Vietnam. Sorry, I know Brian Bender pushed back at me. I'm like, any of this stuff would be world changing, as much as important as the Pentagon papers were. So, stream nuked. Guess the dancing cat was a copyright violation. Is it gone? Is the stream gone, guys? Just let me know. And if I am, I can always go back and fix that. Let me see if I'm on YouTube. Well, that was a mistake by me. Let's see. Are you still on YouTube? It says live. Let's see. No, we're here. Are you still on YouTube? It says live. It's back. I'm here. Maybe they took out the cat. Where the hell are the dancing cats? There's Paul Newman on Letterman. I do a good. I used to do Letterman impersonation. Number 3, top 10. But yeah, Charlie was talking about how UFOs aren't here to hang out with the U.S. Navy. There could be multiple. There could be multiple things going on here. Nobody knows. That's what I said. No idea. All the possibilities. Somebody said, I guess it comes down to who you trust more, Nolan or Admirable Thomas Wilson. What reason would Professor Nolan to have to lie? None. Very good friends with Eric Davis. Wilson must lie. Wilson has to lie, okay? He just has to. It's not a big deal as far as he's some bad guy that has to lie. And hopefully when he comes public, if he ever does, he can explain this. I said, I'd love to have a beer with him. Don't think negatively because he has to lie. And Eric Davis promised him he wouldn't go public if you read the notes. And that's why Eric is really skirting the issue. You know Eric wants to talk about this. What, are you kidding me? Of course he does. He spent decades chasing down that crash retrieval program. And he will get his day. One day he will speak about this. I have no doubt about it. We're up to August 24th. There's no way am I going to get to September 2nd. Oh, we were talking about money when Lou Angeles was calling everybody to put out how much money you make. And I've done that. I don't show you my Patreon, but it hovers around $400 a month. And then PayPal and Venmo or whatever, whenever money comes in, it depends on if people like what I do. I cannot pay my bills with this. I would love to pay my bills with this, especially this kind of stuff. I love doing this. I used to not even like going online. I'm not thrilled about doing live interviews, but this kind of stuff I like. Yeah, they were planning on taking shots at people who made money. I think they went after that UFO podcast. Andy, who's the nicest guy ever. Witness Citizen made $10 in his last live stream. I made 15 on my last one. Tonight is 0, but I'm not going to stream. Super chat is open. Super chat. What any questions you have? Not even when I have a guest. This is not my style. If people want to support it, great. You know, I've thought about putting stuff behind a paywall as far as just adding stuff, maybe like a Zoom call once a week. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I work a part-time job, which is good to help me pay bills, and I still can do this. I don't want to work full-time. I want to do this full-time, but not happening right now. Is there any indication that whistleblowers will be briefing Congress prior to 2023 NDAA signed later? Well, I think it'll be signed in January. I think that's how it was last year or late this year. I don't think so. I think they have to wait. But like you said, we have the October 31st report. Maybe off the record, possibly, but I don't think anything official will happen until that's in place. If I'm a whistleblower, I'm waiting until it's signed. There's no way am I doing that before that's official. But I take that chance. I can wait 4 more months or whatever it is. Thinking about the cat. Reminder to self, don't play audio from the dancing cat. I thought, oh, whatever. I'm not even going to comment on this. I don't want to look like I'm complaining about anything. Yeah, people realize how important it was. Basically, what Gary said, what he did. This is more crash retrievals from Mr. Nolan. I got to have him on. Timing has not been right with him. He was just on vacation. I tried to get him on.
DOD or the U.S. government more broadly has lied about this for so long?
So I think that they were just afraid of admitting that they don't have control over the airspace.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But also, it's really back to what it is that I was saying before. We have the data, but we have, to the extent that there is proof that there's something else here, they didn't want anybody to know about it because they're scared of what the reaction might be.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, that's a human reaction.
It's a human reaction.
Yes.
But the other point is, I think that's important to realize, is that when a lot of, let's say, these events were occurring and there's claimed crash materials that might have been collected, this went off to places like Lockheed and all of the big aerospace companies. They wanted to profit off of it. And many of them basically took a lot of the information, set it aside, and they decided, okay, well, we're going to profit off it. We're not going to tell Congress what this is all about, because if we do, then maybe we have to share this with McDonnell Douglas or something.
How could so if an aerospace, and I've heard this theory from very informed people, I don't think it's a theory, it sounds true, that if there are crash materials, and apparently there are, those reside in the custody of not the U.S. government, but of contractors that work for the U.S. government, aerospace, defense contractors.
Right.
McDonnell Douglas, Lockheed, et cetera. How could they profit off those materials?
Well, one, they can continue to ask for black budget money.
Oh.
For it.
Right. I should know this. I lived in Washington, right?
Right. I mean, that's,
the funding continues.
The funding can continue. You might hope eventually that you can understand it, right? But and thereby profit off of it, But my point has been that whatever this stuff is hundreds of technology revolutions ahead of us, and understandings of physics that we don't appreciate.
Right.
So it's kind of like, the old saw is send a cell phone back to a Neanderthal and see what he does with it. Pound rocks.
He eats it. Yeah. No.
So
no, it's totally right.
Good stuff from Gary. Hold on. This month, PayPal would not process a transaction as a gift from Mergy Productions. It switches transaction to business transaction with fee. You can always, Venmo is better because they don't charge a fee, but I don't understand what that is. I wonder if I'm signed up. I have to look at how I'm signed up on PayPal, because I think I'm on there as a corporation connected, because this would connect to my TV work, which I am incorporated to save on taxes, although none of my work is corporation right now. It's all W-2. So I don't know. Somebody actually sent me a check. Somebody sent me $100 check in the mail. It's like, can I send you a check? Because I don't do anything online. I'm like, yeah, of course. I have to give my address out, but I trusted them. So another person out there, I'm hesitant to give my address out, but hey, if there's somebody who wants to find me, they can find me. I don't think they need me to give my address out. Thank you for that, Green Hiker. I don't know what's going on with that. You could always try Patreon and then just cancel it after a month. I don't know. I mean, there are people who use Patreon and then realize it's monthly. But Venmo is preferred because Venmo doesn't take a fee, which is really great. Need to know. Watch that show. I will add that link afterwards. Like I said, you could use that link that I gave out if you want to give any comments. Fee for me. Yeah, I see the fees when people give me money. It sucks for nothing. They do absolutely nothing. That's why I love Venmo. And that UFO podcast was targeted by UCR, how much money they made. Good, let them make money. I hope they make I hope they make $1 million, and I hope Blue sells millions of books. So they pulled UCR's ad down for the show that was coming up. And Lou Angeles went on and say, it's censorship. Sean Cahill made a request, and they pulled my show, and they're trying to muzzle me. And then John Greenwald jumped in. It's so ridiculous. I'm like, you're using a picture of Sean and Lou that isn't your picture. That's why the copyright request was put in. And Sean is right for doing that. They don't want to be associated with your show. Sorry. So then Lou Angeles put it up again without the picture, and there was no problem. It's like, my God, people, come on. Make some nefarious thing. Trying to squelch me. Freedom of speech. Gary Nolan did have a funny reaction when Ross Coulthard underlined the fact that Eric Davis never confirmed publicly. Well, Gary knows that. As if Gary Nolan was wondering if he had inadvertently said too much. Nah. Gary knows what he's doing. He's friends with Davis. I don't know if he gave him the go ahead or anything like that, but Davis does what he does to honor his commitment to Wilson. What's up, Pix? Emma Woods was only half hour because I had technical problems. I don't know if it was her end or mine. Somebody sent me $20, and I have to thank that. I'm so behind on thanking people. I thank them on Twitter, but I do individually, and I got to do that. Yeah, that picture that Lou Angeles used was Mike DeMonte's book that Lou and Sean were looking at. Somebody I have muted. I don't know who that is. I still don't think I have several people muted. It's time for me to not waste time engaging with certain people who just say the same thing over and over again, no matter what I tweet. It's just constant battle at me. And people say, you live in an echo chamber. You don't hear other points of view. I've heard points of view. I know what people are saying. I know basically, I mean, it's been 4.5 years of the same type of takes. And I know if there's a really good argument made, I will see it from other people, and I have other people sending me stuff. So, and as I said to a friend, I am skeptical enough as it is. If you read my latest blog on the Ben Hansen UFO former F-18 pilot, skeptical about that. I don't need people to tell me to be skeptical. I consider myself, I wouldn't consider myself a skeptic, but I am skeptical about individual cases, which is most of what we deal with, or individual claims. More showing copyright. Oh, look, it's pics. It's critical to stop ridiculing those who claim to have had an experience. If we're to understand the so-called phenomenon, which comes in many flavors, always keep one's BS detector active. But we need to really hear what these important firsthand voices can potentially teach us. Exactly. Stop shooting down people who are coming forward with information, their personal experiences. I wonder if Davis has spoken with Wilson in private since the whole memo went public. I would think so. I do not know that. You know? Of course. I mean, obviously, I think they interviewed. Why wouldn't you speak to him? I don't know what this means. Shut down the channels of communication. Just don't. Shut down. That guy is brilliant. Yes, Pix. He's got the same name as you. Really funny timing there. Once again, it wasn't stifling dissent. It was about Mick West. Really great take showing Mick West was supporting the puppet theory with Ariel's school, the incident. I'll be back in 1 second. I mean it. 1 second. I'm back. Yeah, I saw the typo. I don't know if you were telling me not to mute anybody, whatever. It just gets old. And some of the people I have blocked are the ones that went after somebody with some really vile stuff, or supported the person who went after Jessica. They basically went after Jessica. But as I said today, I've supported people who went after Green Street. I've supported people who went after Greenwald. Even though I don't agree with those guys, if you're going to say something that's over the top, I'm going to speak up. It doesn't matter if I agree with the person who's being targeted. And people on Twitter don't seem to get that. Skinwalker drawing. Somebody sent to Brandon. Danny Silva said, much of the UFO community is still not privy to what goes on behind the scenes. We have high expectations for people, and rightfully so. But if some of you had any idea of what really occurs, you'd be cutting people way more slack and really appreciating them for what they do. Yeah, it's not easy behind the scenes. It's not just, they face adversity just like we do. All the folks who are trying to get this out, it's not simple. There's pushback. Just like I said, Eric Davis, he's on our side. If you knew what he said at the SCU, stuff that we talk about, you would say, oh, that sounds just like us. We have the same issue that Eric had at the SCU that he was talking and complaining about. Psyop. If Eric Davis was lying and made the notes up his Twitter account and go back to living a quiet life. Me too. Somebody on here said that I said I was getting off Twitter and I was back later that afternoon. I said I was taking a break. I forget what the break was about. Something that pissed me off. If proof comes out that the meeting happened and those notes account real events, I will de-anonymize this account. That's pretty cool. Proof will come out eventually. I don't know when, though. Yeah, it was the one in Zimbabwe, the aerial school. Yeah, I don't understand it. You can be, and I'm not saying I've been perfect, but you can disagree with people and not call them a Nazi. That's a start. For folks who missed it earlier, it's so ridiculous. I'm not even going to talk about it. Somebody called somebody a Nazi because of the number in their handle. And then nobody spoke up. Hardly anybody spoke up. It's so ridiculous. I just don't get it. People have a difficult time holding a dialectic that you can publicly disagree with somebody yet still be cordial with them. And like I said, I'm not always cordial, but I'm not going to go. This was so over the line. It's so ridiculous. It's unfortunate to see that so, but it happens a lot. I know. And that's why people who see me on Twitter or on YouTube or when I do other shows, they think I'm a different person than my Twitter. And not that I'm that bad on Twitter, but I'm definitely calmer here. I mean, I gave out the link. If anybody wants to jump in, do it one more time. Audio or video. I would love to do an open lines call, but people don't like to jump in. I've been going for 3 hours. Is that it? I have work tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. Usher. Luckily, now we're in a nice groove. I don't have to be there until 6:30 for a 9:30 start, and I don't do anything for the first 3 hours. So I do UFO stuff if I can, and I'm become antisocial and not go out to dinner with my coworkers. So this is the Bobby Inman comment, supposedly during the Advanced Theoretical Physics Working Group, and they said that Bobby Inman was working on crash retrievals and back engineering. I forget exactly what he said. Maybe we could see this if I pull it up. These were Oak Shannon's notes. That's John Alexander basically poo-pooing it. What information that the group members have in 1985 that they suspected that Bobby Ray Inman learned may have had involved in the use of crash retrievals and back engineering. Inman discussed the ATIP group conversations in 85. Were you aware of ATIP listed as someone to talk to regarding crashers? And John Alexander said no. Let's see. Hold on. I don't watch Steve Cambion. I don't watch John Greenwald usually. Occasionally. I still told Lou I would watch his show from yesterday, the ending show of UCR, but don't know if I will. No, you want to summarize it quick, you can. I think, who'd he go after? It's like, is that all these guys do, go after people? I'd rather show videos and comment. Tell me what it was. I don't want to give him an ad click unless it's something really important. That's about Bobby Ray Inman. This was in response to UCR calling for everybody to show their financials. And Graham said, I'm not showing anybody that. Writing books is my job. Since I left the national health system, I'm an author and I've never hidden it. I make a little money from selling books, UFOs and aviation history ones, but it's not a fortune. I wouldn't dream of asking others to show me their pay slips. Yeah, it's so ridiculous. But that show is finished at least for 4 months, I believe. From what I heard, I have not seen it. Yeah, I did finish the Nolan Tucker transcript, but then I went back, fixed typos, and I added a lot of stuff, and I'm still not done. Getting there, though. Tomorrow, I think I'll be able to do it. I hope. Semivan was on with Calling All Beings. That was really good. Semivan's a big John Keel fan. Brian Mess, UFO, is going after our representatives nonstop every day, really doing the work. I really need to retweet that guy every day, just so those representatives get a message that they're being tagged. James Fox talked about another school sighting, supposedly a close encounter of the third kind, and I made a joke that those damn puppets are everywhere. Talking about Space Force guy saying, right now we're not focused on security challenges around Alpha Centauri. We're interested in relevant strategic spaces in our operating. AOR is area of operation. I forget. I wrote it down. Area of responsibility that are relevant to our department, nation, allies, and the planet. Yeah, well, stop mocking UFOs with your Alpha Centauri comment. That is your job. If they're here and they're going from space down to here, if I'm not sure if that's going on, if they're just based here, but you don't mock it. Give me a break. And you are involved with UFOs. I don't care what you say. Just like when Semivan says the CIA is not involved with crash retrievals, that's not what I heard. I would trust the person who told me that too. Yeah, there's a lot of distractions out there. I agree with Chris Wolford on this. A lot of people just want to focus on tearing people down and distracting, which I don't really understand, but I need to ignore it, you know? This is better. He's the one that does that new show. Talking about AFOSI, Doty, just operation. Yeah, my Wilson Davis mega blog was 23,000 words. It was supposed to be a really quick look at Wilson Davis, really quick, and then it turned into 4 parts of mega blog, 23,000 words. Nolan Tucker transcript is not like that, but it's almost 11,000 words because I'm adding background stuff and links from previous tweets and stuff that's related, and videos like I've showed tonight are going to be part of it. So it'll be something that people will enjoy. It'll be more than a transcript. Another NIDS study with implants related to Roger Lear, the archive of that report. Well, I know John Greenwald was going at Lou tonight. It's like, oh God, whatever. If I turn out my judgment is totally wrong on Lou and everybody else, I think it's time to find a new obsession. I'll go back to watching football. You know, I used to look forward to Sunday's football. I would not miss. Now it's like there have been times I'm working on UFOs. It was a couple of years ago when I was doing Wilson Davis, I think. Something around then. I don't know what it was, but I was like, oh my God, it's late in the afternoon. I forgot today was Sunday. I'm not watching football. I'm finally growing up. I spent a lot of time watching sports growing up, and I still love it, but this is more important. So usually I'll watch YouTube summaries, although I'll still watch Sunday, and I love playoffs. Football playoffs are my favorite. Same with baseball and hockey and basketball. More from NIDS about UFOs over nukes, mystery helicopters, NIDS. I remember I brought up the helicopters in Ted Oliphant's article about how it looks like there's a covert operation going on. This was 96 or 97. Linda Moulton Howe at a conference. She was not happy. It's like, really? Because it's extraterrestrials, right, Linda? Can't be human, right? She was just so against that idea. I did not know that he was Kenneth Ring's cousin. I know Kenneth Ring did something. Oh, you just said it. NDA. NDE. I didn't know that. Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of stuff going on besides UFOs. I'm looking forward to football starting, but not obsessed like I was before. Patrick Hughes account of, yeah, it was more old posts on Reddit talking about data being confiscated from the Nimitz incident. The good trouble show is that stand for better guy. I forget his name, who I did communicate because he's in the television business too. This was John Greenwald's FOIA related to the Fowler, range Fowlers, how these pilots are like, I've never seen anything like that. So whatever they're seeing is advanced technology. It's probably not drones. I think our pilots would be, obviously they don't know everything, but I would love to see if they have videos of that stuff. Where's my Usher notes? I run 4 cameras on Usher, 4, which is not normal, usually 2, but I do 4. But it's a challenge. So once you get the showdown, you know where he's going to be, so you know which cameras to go to. It's a challenge trying to follow him because they're not that precise. This was from August 22nd, 2020, season 2, episode 8 of Unidentified, which one of my favorite clips. This is about human potential. It's so much more than what we realize.
Also in June 2020.
And I think we can learn from somebody else who's advanced, and I hope we get that chance. And they say, you guys have no idea how much you're capable. It's kind of like the Jesus line. You're capable of so much more, greater deeds, not deeds. Greater, not gifts. I forget the Jesus line, but you can accomplish more than I can. And I don't watch Cambion. Sorry. I'm not going to say anything. Not a fan. People like him. That's fine. And he's said stuff about Eric Davis is just so far off. It's like I can't listen to somebody that just is just so far off with their opinion. And I know is like, well, he took down David Wilcock. Like, David Wilcock was taken down 10 years ago. It's not new information. Big deal. Corey Good. And there are people still, thousands of people who watch Wilcock. So no matter what you did or anybody did, it's not going to change that. Those folks are diehards. He makes a lot of money doing what he does. I'm not sure. I know he's been weird lately. More videos, trying to get more videos out. Supposedly there's a whole bunch more. We don't see them, so let me know when they do. Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second. Let's see where the Jim Semivan, that's an older 64 tweet Semivan thread. Some really good threads I've put together as far as the information in them, not anything I did. Well, I transcribed them. So this is Semivan. I don't know what he says here. Let's see what he says. I'm going to try to link to all this stuff afterwards so these folks can at least get promotion and people can go easily to their... That was the night where Lou went live on UCR. I'm like, hopefully people are listening to this instead.
But I remember when it came out on that fateful day, the story was wrong. And I got a hold of Leslie and I said...
He's talking about when the 2017 article came out in the New York Times. His response here is just great.
It's not about $22 million and the Pentagon has a UFO program. It's about there's an entity out there. There's some kind of non-human intelligence that's living with us on this fucking planet. I'm sorry. I'm getting all wound up. That's the story. And she said they wouldn't let me run it like that. And it's still very, very difficult. So I give the New York Times a lot of credit for running this story, but for missing the big point. We're not alone, and we never have been alone. And I think that's what Chris Mellon got across when he got the Navy. And again, the Navy is a very, very small part of this. The Navy is just this one little small program that they started because they were seeing all this stuff right on the East Coast and the West Coast and with the carrier groups. And that's how this all started. But that wasn't the real program. I mean, that's part of it, but when the Congress saw the classified briefings, saw what I saw, they were dumbfounded. They wanted to know. They were angry, and they still are angry. Why weren't we told? Why didn't we know about this? Now, John can attest to this. This goes back a ways. This whole idea of keeping this hidden because I personally believe there were, and I still believe to this day, from everything I know, there are no answers, in the sense that the government, the IC in particular, and the military have no answers. They really truly have no answers. Human intelligence that's living with us on this fucking planet. I'm sorry, I'm getting all wound up.
Exactly. And they're talking about $22 million. I mean, yeah, we got the article. It's great. But wake the hell up, planet Earth. My God. As far as, Cambian letting people have other opinions, you can have. I gave out the link. You want to have another opinion on anything I've said tonight? There's the link. People don't use it. But you have to back up your arguments. Backing up. If you make a claim like, I blocked Charlie Weiser. I got tired of her making a claim that the air, and maybe it was the wrong pilot. Maybe I misunderstood, saying the pilot that Ben Hansen was talking to was a lying hoaxer. I'm like, okay, back it up. Show me. I mean, they supposedly called air traffic control. They're going to risk their career. Back up your claim if you're going to say something like that. So, and then somebody says, well, you're claiming aliens. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not claiming anything. Read my blog. Don't be lazy. I'm not claiming aliens. Anyway, I don't want to talk about Cambian. You guys can debate it. Semivan's great, and he was promoting Operation Trojan Horse, which I've told people to read. Nolan told me to read it a couple of years ago, and this is more Semivan. Instead of me rambling on all night, here you go.
They proved, back the British Psychical Association around the turn of the century pretty much proved that telepathy exists, telekinesis exists, clairvoyance, things along those lines. I mean, they had plenty of evidence, to prove that this is real.
And yet people don't think it's real. Study some of the work that the British SPR, Society for Psychical Research, and there's one in New York. There's a British version and a New York version, the American version. So much data. But, I can't really pull the data out of my head like some other folks can do. That's somebody like Dean Radin, or the guy who was on the show with the panel with Lou and Blumenthal and Marshall Summers. It's one of my favorite transcripts, and Richard Dolan and Danny Sheehan. That guy was with the PAIR Lab, Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab. Still going on. We have abilities that everybody has to some degree. Some people are amazing. Some people are not amazing, like me.
Stacks and stacks of evidence. But you take it to a scientist, and and actually they were scientists who proved this. But this tradition of disbelief that's been going on in our educational system forever, they just don't look at it that way. It's science is a wonderful thing. I mean, it's just incredibly wonderful. It's brought great success and in health and technology, but it doesn't accept things if it doesn't fit into the model. And the model is reliability and predictability. And if there's one thing this phenomenon is not, it's a matter of it spits at us when you try to get any reliability or predictability out of it. It gives you the big middle finger, right? Because it doesn't care. It doesn't care. That's the only excuse I have. I mean, I know now some people might say, well, it's a grander reason why it doesn't care. Well, I don't think so. I mean, I go back to the gin, right? They're fucking with us. This is what John Keel said, in Operation Trojan Horse, which I probably read 4 times already. But he called it a big paraphysical game, just a big screw you. You know what I mean? I have a chance to screw you because I have something over you, and I'm going to do it. And sometimes it's funny, most times it isn't, and sometimes it's dangerous. And sometimes it's just plain human rights violations, so. And then sometimes it works wonders, I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah, Semivan, I'm usually right there with him when he's talking about stuff. Why crash fuels are irrelevant, I don't understand what you're saying there. If we prove that and we show the world, that opens up the door. Pandora's box is wide open, and people will look at all the other stuff. starting with UFOs. This is an oldie. I don't know if I even listened to this. I retweeted it. I listened to it at the time. Let's see what Lou was saying back then. Pretty good incident, I think.
One interesting event that occurred. It's pretty incredible. You have I'm not going to go into too much detail. I want people to know who it is. The person is kind of very cagey about this, but you have a helicopter going out of a Caribbean island on a regular basis because the Navy likes to test fire some of its cruise missile technology and whatnot. And what will happen is that after the cruise missile runs out of fuel, it kind of splashes into the ocean. It will sink, and then at a certain time, it kind of rises up. And we go and fetch it, and we analyze it for telemetry and things like that. Long story short, helicopter crew goes out to recover one of these things. As they are recovering it, the first time, the missile, they're pulling up, and something what was described round and circular, about the size of a small island, black, dark color, starts rising to the surface. It doesn't break the water, but it starts rising to the surface. They thought, wow, that's really, really peculiar. Well, the next month goes around, and they go out to retrieve this another missile that was test fired. And this time, we got a frogman hanging down from the rope, about to latch onto the missile, and this thing starts coming out of the water again. And if you know about the Puerto Rican trench out there, you're talking about water that's 22,000 feet deep. It's the second deepest part of the ocean. The thing starts rising up, and as the thing is starting to come to the surface, the frogman is literally trying to climb the rope. They're doing an emergency ascent. Everybody is absolutely panic at the disco, freaking out. What the hell is that? What's going on? And as they start to pull up, it sucks the missile underwater and then disappears, never to be seen again. There's incidents like that just kind of make the hair stand up on the back of your neck and go, what?
Yeah, exactly. What the hell is that? Taking our missiles, assuming that happened like that. I've always had issue with anyone CIA and Maybe it's deserved, maybe just my untrusting nature, but some event seems like the most trustworthy of, experiences work in the FBI and in the CAA and in the NSA. So you're going to get people. I mean, Semivan I don't think he's lying about his abduction experience with his wife, and then talking about a shadow being coming through the wall and the night his friend died, and then talking about a doctor who told, or I don't know if he said doctor, but he said somebody who told him, you need to go communicate with that thing. And I'm pretty sure that was Kit Green, because he said, yeah, the guy who has a temper, let's not mention his name, that's Kit Green. Fravor talked about this incident with the missile being pulled under as well. Pretty fascinating. Certainly lends credence to the notion that these things might have some sort of permanent presence under the oceans. 100%, definitely. Yeah. There could be a lot of different things going on. I don't know how people are going to handle that. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, what's this? This is Dorothy Izat. Good documentary on Netflix if you get to watch it. Interesting stuff that she captured. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Some of the craft or whatever it is, weird stuff that she captured. 8mm film. Getting tired now. Look at the dog contemplating life. No sound? No sound. Yeah, Cookie does not do that at the beach. Let's see, what else? I know I have a lot more because I tweet so much. Oh, somebody picked this homeless dog. But it's a good ending. I'm not going to show it now, but it had a good ending. Of course, they're not going to show a bad ending. Yeah, is there any chance Semivan is making it worse than it sounds? I don't think that's the case, but I mean, that's when you bring up the Kit Green talking about how the government might come up with a story that's more scary and floated around and put it in movies over the decades. So when the real story comes out, it's not as scary. And the public's like, oh, that other story about reptilians eating our babies, that's not true. This other story is true, and it's less scary. I can handle that. I don't know if that was his theory or he was talking to somebody in the government and that's what they were doing. I need to ask him that. One of my first interviews, that was Melinda Leslie in 1997. I was into UFOs the year before, and then I was doing a public access show called the UFO Joe Show. Did 13 episodes, 1 hour live. I did call-ins. I did people calling, like guests calling from other parts of the country. I think I had to get like a calling phone card to get them to call in, so it was free for them. And then I went to a conference where I saw Courtney Brown lecture, and I saw Melinda Leslie talk about my labs. I'm like, let me interview her. So I don't have I don't think I have a copy. Oh, my friend has a copy of that. I need to put it online if I can. He charges for it, I think. I thought I downloaded it. I have to look. I interviewed Lynn Buchanan for my show because I went out, took his San Francisco remote viewing class. That was fun. I interviewed him after the class or during the class. I interviewed Stanley McDaniel, who was a professor emeritus at Sonoma State University, interested in the Mars Cydonia region. Dr. James Strange from USF. He was in the studio, practicing archaeologist and professor of religious studies, University of South Florida. He focused on the mounds on Mars and Cydonia, and there was a grid that was arranged in a grid of the square root of 2 and 3. So everything was multiples of the square root of 2 and 3. Interesting. And I interviewed Linda Moulton Howe, which was an hour of environment. We didn't even get into anything high strange. Stanton I did at a conference. Interviewed a guy when I went to Norway, which I never transcribed. I have that on like mini audio somewhere. Micro cassette. I was just pointing out people don't respect the blog and Twitter as content. They do YouTube stuff. I think they only like interviews, but I don't like to just do interviews. I'd rather do this, but I do want to keep doing interviews. Just not. I don't want to just do interviews like everybody else does. I used to edit when I worked in television, and then everything became computerized, and I didn't keep up with everything. All right, Pix, thanks for coming in. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he spoke. There's nothing negative to say about Dorothy Isaac. She did everything right. Interpretations are another story. Who the hell knows? But that's really, and they look like she actually captured some beings. Let's see. That was my open I did. I'm afraid to use the music, but because it's copyrighted. Nope, I'm not playing it. Let's see. It was Cusco, which was Art Bell. That was the UFO Joe Show open that I did for public access. Yeah, Mark, I like this too. I mean, I have so many. The videos, I think I'm okay on copyright unless somebody puts a complaint in, but I will link to the videos like Need to Know, and it'll get them views. I mean, I think my Need to Know video I put with Nolan, the 5 minutes, I think I had like 5,000. It's probably more than 5,000 Wilson Davis comments he made. That was the USA Today, Arizona Phoenix Lights sighting. Yeah, that was back then. Let's see. It was Cusco. About classified stuff and freedom of information. Trump. Ukrainian UAP paper I have not read yet. Heard mixed things, usually negative from the skeptics. I don't know yet. That's Kit Green talking about the theory that they come up with a story that's even, really crazy, and they spread it through movies and films and books, and then when the real story does come out, and that was from Mirage Men. I'm not going to go through that whole thing. And the basic core story he was talking about to Mark Pilkington and his friend, or Maybe they visited us, in spaceships a couple of times and then went back home. Perhaps they left a vehicle or two behind or they crashed. A long thread. Not a lot of people ignored it. I'm kind of surprised Kit Green, who has contacts in the government, talking about what might be going on as far as creating a story that's scarier than what actually is going on as a way to get the public ready for the real story. But I don't know. People like drama more. I don't get it. It's not an exciting thread, but somebody like Kit Green is Mr. Skeptical right now, as far as publicly. When he talks about this kind of stuff, I do pay attention. Man, that's a long thread. John Ramirez was part of that panel with Semivan, by the way. You have Ramirez, Semivan, and Kit Green, all CIA. I don't think Semivan's talking about scary stuff because he wants to get the public prepared for something not as scary. I just think that's what Semivan thinks, and he likes John Keel like I do. Like I said, Gary Nolan recommended John Keel to me, Operation Trojan Horse. I asked Eric. He's like, oh, yeah, I read that in 8th grade. I'm like, really? 8th grade? And then Semivan said he'd read it 4 times. It's a popular book. A probably popular book in the intelligence community. This is what I was talking about. John Keel talks about, imagine a super advanced AI that can do this holographically, a print in 3D instantly. And then and he says, next thing you know, you have a jock control system. Maybe this stuff is happening based on what we do. I don't know. This was Skinny Bob. Yeah, one of my older tweets saying, unless they're so advanced, they can create anything they want. Super duper advanced 3D printer. What do you want? Saucer? Done. Grays? Done. Triangles? Done. Praying mantis being done. It may be like that. They're so far advanced. That was more about 3D printing from last year. Holy crap, aliens are here. We have determined your species is worthy of galactic ascension. And then the human's like, yes, finally. And then he takes the dog. Not us. What other Jin? I haven't watched that. I need to watch that. I'm not putting that on here. This was Senator Gillibrand, a transcript of what she talked about with that guy. I forget who it was. Oli or Ozzy, they call him. I forget his name. But she's like, she's going to give him another interview, and hopefully he asks her about the legacy programs and if they have spoken to any of these witnesses off the record. Damn, these bugs. Thanks, Jeff. I will keep trying to do this and everything. Eventually it'll kick in, hopefully. Thoughts of Kit's interview with the anonymous psychic and her remote viewing of the geological event. Everybody knows who she is, but I don't know. As Kit says, information that she gives him about people who you can check with an MRI. If it's medical information, he can check that. If she says so-and-so had a conversation, he can check that. If she says there's aliens underneath, Catalina Island, can't really check that. I mean, if there are, I don't think they'd be let themselves be found. So that information is interesting, but unless you can verify it, it's only interesting. That's why when Kit says he knows 95% accuracy or 100% accuracy, he talks about Kay, talks about Uri Geller, talks about McMonagle. Yeah, Uri Geller. He's not a fraud. Kit Green's not going to be fooled by a fraud. All of these years, and Kit Green said that he wasn't used for remote viewing, Uri, because there was other things he was better at. They don't have to create actual grays if they can just make us think they're seeing grays. Well, we don't know that they make us see grays. That's a theory, but I get your point. Why make them if they could just affect our perceptions and make us think we're seeing grays? So I don't know. It could be a mix. It could be one of the others going on. What's the time span of your tweet history we have looked at? It's only a couple of days. It's only been a couple of days I've gotten to. Because when I tweet a lot. I'm up to 28,000 followers, I think. It goes really fast right now. The more you get, it grows exponentially. She literally says her name in the recording, but at the time I did my transcript, the recording wasn't easily accessible. So I edited it out in my transcript, and I did not include the audio in my transcript. So people didn't know who she was. And Kit Green asked me to keep her name out because she was afraid of being connected to it, because there are people that do not like that that's going on. And so that's why I did that. And I've also recommended people to her for readings. I've gotten a reading for her. I had a reading from her for my dog who was so sick. And people laugh. Really? You used a psychic? Well, first of all, she's known for medical intuitive. She's known as a medical intuitive. So yeah, my dog's neck was so messed up to the point where we didn't know what was going on. Surgery, everybody, my sister's recommending surgery. I'm like, no. My homeopathic doctor says no surgery. Went to Kay. She's like, it's a muscle thing. Just give it time. It'll be fine. He'll totally recover. He did. Homeopathic doctor said the same thing. My sister, no. The regular vet, no. Homeopathic, dead on. Kay Randall, dead on. So make of that what you will. Gillibrand needs to push talking about Sean Kirkpatrick. I'll read it. He asks, when can we expect a public hearing, Senator Gillibrand, regarding UFOs and UAP, specifically with these reforms in place? She doesn't answer. Oh, okay. So I'm supposed to get a report in the next, I think, month or two. They briefed our staff. This is Gillibrand. But it wasn't very significant. Not a lot of information. They're building the office right now. Cut to hammers and nails as they build the new UFO office. It's a pop-up office in the middle of Walmart's parking lot. Sean Kirkpatrick, the man who is in charge, understands he is supposed to work with the private sector and all of the people who have all the data and information. He's also asked to go back and look at all the archival data. He has not been able to get access to it. As you can imagine, it's probably siloed in all sorts of places. So his job is to try to get access to all of it. And if he can't, I just said, go forward. If you can't get the historic stuff, get what's in the private sector, get the private sector data like the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration data, correlate it, investigate all the other things that are current, and just create a state-of-the-art office. Yay! And he's committed, and they're taking it seriously, and they're not going to hide, because there's so many of us now in the intel community, so many of us now on the intel committee and armed forces that we're going to stand by the service members who documented this stuff. Yes, they have video, they have radar, they have heat sensors, they have everything. Materials, they have it. So I'm not going to let it go. I'm 100% committed. And if you have information and want to help me, why don't I get your card and we'll collaborate? And then he asked for an interview. She says yes, and everybody's happy, except she didn't answer about public hearings, and she needs to stay on the historic data. This is nonsense. Oh, just don't worry about the historic data. I mean, there may be stuff going on behind the scenes, of course, but push her. She works for us. Push her. Have you met with anybody who's a whistleblower in these programs? Have you met with anybody? Have you spoken to anybody? Have you had any of your staff members spoken to them? That's what she needs to be asked. All of these people. She's open at least to being interviewed, so that's great. Somebody tried to get me to use her name, the person who leaked it to me. Leaked, quote unquote. For some reason, I think they were part of the other side that really wants to just make it hard on Kit and the other folks who are doing this work. And then I had Grant Cameron says he was going to out her, and then I got mad and he wound up not outing her. I'm like, why would you do that? He's like, well, she leaked it. I'm like, no, she didn't leak it. If you listen to it, the person who leaked it was the person, the experiencer. That's who leaked it. It wasn't Kay. I never heard directly from Kay. She just didn't want to talk about it. Next report is due October 31st. What time is it? I've been going for 3 hours and 45 minutes. That's the actual interview, Gillibrand, which I just read. To them, reality is negotiable. What was he responding to? It said, yeah, it almost seems like the phenomenon can do exactly this. Print in 3D in real time and destroy atoms in real time. Yep. But I've been I've been tweeting about it for a year because of Keel and reading Valet that was recommended by Nolan. So it's not like I came up with it on my own, but it did click in my head. Also, after looking at Project Unity put out the Skinny Bob video and somebody saying something like that, and it just clicked. And then DeLong talking about being in the back of the car. Somebody was texting him talking about creating stuff at the atomic level or the nano. That's not that hard to think that some super advanced intelligence is able to do that. Let's see. Here we go. More. I think I'm going to end it soon. I'm getting tired.
I got a briefing on the cohort group. It used to be called the interference syndrome, and it was about 100 people. Mm-hmm. And out of that 100, we've lost about 20. And these are people who ran smack dab into the phenomenon, right? In various circumstances. My wife and I are included in that. And we lost a lot of those 20 to suicide. I saw the HIPAA restricted PowerPoint on what these people look like, what their brains look like, what their bodies look like after they were either had orb activity and a lot of this happened at Skinwalker. These officers, going out and then coming back, and then the hitchhiker effect, damaged some family members, the orbs. So it's pretty serious stuff, and I don't know what to do. I mean, this is really funny. I mean, my wife and I sleep with, on all our beds, right, there's rosaries and amulets, right? I don't know what else to do. I got a mezuzah on my front door. I'm not Jewish, but you know what I mean? It's like I got Buddhas in my backyard. I got, and I sleep with a locked door at night.
Yeah, I don't think somebody was making that up, trying to scare people. It's like 20 people committed suicide, or 20 people died. A lot of them, or some of them, committed suicide. Is that related? Was that related? Did they trace that to Havana, or was it phenomenon related? I would love specifics about what was what their brains looked like, which ones is he talking? He's talking about Jay Stratton, the other folks at Skinwalker, whatever. It's like, it might be a mix of Skinwalker. It might be somebody messing with people with, technology, and also whatever's going on in the ranch. It could be a mix. That could be. I mean, I think Nolan said in his Vice interview that it was, a non-state actor possibly at the ranch. August, more on. Yeah, this is basically, I'm just going to call it with this. I just said you need to ask her if any of her staffers have communicated with people who have worked in these historic legacy UFO programs, such as the crash retrieval program. Let her answer that question. And if she says, I can't discuss it, okay, all right, probably that's happening. And then Mellon's like, put her feet to the fire, ask her, when will they put the United States Air Force on the carpet, just to get some straight answers. They don't mention the Air Force whatsoever. And then Charlie Paris said that according to his data, and he has the data from Jacobs, Hopkins, and Mack working on a documentary, it would seem that as kids, most abduction events take place at night while asleep. In adults, most abduction events take place in the day while awake. I did not know that. And like I said, he has access to all of transcripts and everything. And then Nolan giving more positive information. The good thing about how far this progress is that many intent individuals are on it. My role, I've always felt, has been to give a language, a framework to talk about ideas, how to combat this, and to tell their experiences without ridicule. The skeptics demand answers, standards, etc., but never apply them to themselves. Mick West dances from point to point, never answering the counterpoints, jumping to conclusions before he has finished reading a paper. And that other guy, Murd, needs to up his dose. I'm not sure who Murd is. Right, I'm done with tweets for now. And I'll just finish a couple of questions. I got to stop. Let's see. Just finish these last couple. There's a YouTube channel done by an academic-based PK group, and whenever PK seems to occur, it never looks real, like seeing a dream. You should link to that. I know some guy who teaches PK, and yes, I do think some humans can do that. Although he thinks, this one guy I saw, thinks everybody can do it. He has like this jar and these things with, you make them yourself. Is it possible it's a cult? I'm not sure what it is. So if you want to ask again, explain what it is. 20 people have committed suicide after being on the ranch. No, that's not what he said. He didn't say that. He said 20 people have died. Some to suicide, some related to the ranch. He said a lot of them were on the ranch. I don't know. I would love specific numbers. How many of those were interference syndrome, which was later turned out to be Havana syndrome. So some of those folks had Havana, which I would think would be human. And then other people had injuries from being too close to whatever it was, not intentional. That's what it seems like. You have Savannah seems directed on purpose. Havana. And then the other injuries where their brains are fried seems like not on purpose, just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But I don't have details. Lou has given some pretty telling. I don't want to comment on that right now. Comments when asked about deaths relating to the phenomenon. Yeah, like I said, it probably occurs, but it may not be on purpose. Then again, you have human mutilations, which I don't think. I hope covert groups aren't doing that. I don't know a lot about human mutilations. You are welcome, Jonathan. 3 hours, 52 minutes. I'm sorry that Emma didn't work out, but we will reschedule her. I think she's doing Erica Luke's in a week. But as far as I know, that's going to be focused all on Jacobs. And I really don't want to focus on David Jacobs because he is now in a senior home and he's not doing research and she's moved on and she has a book out talking about her experiences. So that's more what I wanted to focus on. Hopefully next time it won't have a problem with tech. Thanks for the questions, Jeff. And Green Hiker, I'll see you guys next time. I'll leave my tweets right up where I left off. I need to do it more often so I could do like, if I did it every day, maybe that's hard to do every day, but I tweet so much, it would still at least be an hour. All right, I gotta go before I fall asleep here. I'm fading quickly. Thanks for watching, guys. I will do this again soon. Michael Vi will be on soon. Sorry to Emma for the tech problems.